Hi, this is Jonathan J, and welcome to this video, which is a recording of the Dealmakers Virtual Conference that I ran at the end of 2020. We had hundreds of delegates. We had 4 very special guests, all deal makers, doing deals despite the pandemic. And also we answered dozens and dozens and dozens of audience questions. So here is the replay for you. Now, about an hour into the conference, I made a very special offer to the delegates attending, and that was to come on to some training on how to buy a business during 2021. The game has changed since last year yet again at the end of January, and we offered a very good price with some additional items, some additional resources and bonuses. Now, if you would like to take advantage of that offer too, you're watching the recording. Now, if the recording is here and you're watching it, which you are, then the offer is still live. If there's no recording, the offer isn't live anymore. To make it easy for you, I've put a link in the video description below. And also, why don't you get yourself booked on the next virtual conference on January the 20th, Wednesday, January the 20th. I've put a link in the video description below as well. So maybe see you on the training, maybe see you on the next virtual conference. Either way, enjoy this recording. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this slightly different and special event. If you've been to any of my webinars before, you know that it's all me doing the talking. Today, I have 4 very special guests who I will be interviewing to find out what they have been doing in the world of deal making. And later on at the end, we will be doing Q&A. We will answer as many of your questions as possible. I hope you're excited. I mean, I always find this time of year a really exciting time. It's that lull between Christmas and New Year. You don't get very many emails or messages during this time. And it's a great time to plan your goals for next year. And that's what I've been doing over the last few days, thinking, what do we want to achieve next year? And how are we going to do that in the fastest possible way? So let me tell you what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to be telling you, first of all, some of my predictions for 2021. I guess they're not all predictions per se. Some of them are my insights into what's happening in the market and how I think that's going to change next year. And then I'm going to introduce you to my first special guest, Darren Jacobs, doing multiple deals during lockdown. And I happen to know that Darren has completed now his 21st acquisition in the last few months, and that's really going some. So I'm going to be asking Darren how he's done that and how you can do that too if your ambitions are that big. I'm also going to talk to you as well about the deal negotiation process and how that has changed and how it's going to look in 2021 a little bit different to if we were doing this conference a year ago. So much has changed in the last 12 months. And then I'm going to introduce you to Andy Doyle. Andy is a long-standing client of mine who is going to share with you how he did his first acquisition that doubled the size of his business and the acquisitions that he has done since. And then I'm going to tell you about some January training that I'm going to be doing, and also how you can access that at a discounted rate. And that's for people who would like to join me in January. And then I'm going to introduce you to special guest Ray Burke, who's done 3 acquisitions during lockdown. And I happen to know he's got another couple on the cards as well. I'll be asking him about what he's doing and how he funds those deals. And I can tell you that it doesn't come from his own pocket. And then I'm going to introduce you to Graham Carling, who is playing a very big game in the acquisition stage, and he's buying multi-million-pound businesses without using his own money. So I'm going to be quizzing him on that and asking him the questions that you have in your mind. And then we're going to be doing questions and answers for me, for the panel, and we will answer as many of those as we can fit in. Now, I know that some of you are new to my world of business buying and to the way that myself and my clients approach buying a business. So I'm just going to give you a quick refresher so that we're all starting today on the same page. I want us all to be following the same path here. And it's very, very good to clear up some of the misconceptions right at the start, because that's always a good place to start with. So the first thing to remember is that your personal finances do not prevent you from buying a business. And I think that the biggest misconception about buying a business is that you need very, very deep pockets. You need to have access to an awful lot of funding, whether it's private funding or whether it's bank funding. And I think that that immediately gets in people's way, even if you've got someone who is who's got the resources. I think that it would be a little silly to be investing those resources and spending those resources when you don't need to and when you don't have to. And I play a little bit of a game with myself, because what I want to do always with every acquisition that I look at is say to myself, how can I buy this business without dipping into my savings, without using my resources, and without spending months trying to get bank financing? So if that's been a concern of yours, I don't want it to be. The next thing to remember is you do not run the business yourself. So right now I've got 19 distinct businesses around the UK. They each run as a separate unit, and I don't manage any of them. And I think that's really, really important, because if you had to run around trying to run the businesses that you buy, you just drive yourself a little bit crazy. And I don't think anyone wants to be that headless chicken trying to do everything themselves. And then something to remember is that the profit that the businesses make is yours. And I say this specifically to the people who've never run a business before. If you've never run a business before, you might not have got your head around the concept that the profit that the business makes is yours, and it's yours to do with as you want, whether it's to use that money to buy more businesses, whether it's to draw that profit out of the business for you and your family. And obviously to the business owners on the session today, yeah, that's very obvious to you. But for people who haven't yet got into business, sometimes that isn't so obvious. And this is probably a really good point to answer the question, can anyone buy a business? Well, the answer is yes, of course, anyone can buy a business, because all we have to do is get out your checkbook and write a check and you can buy a business. But not everyone knows how to buy it the smart way. And what we're talking about today is buying it the smart way. And then sometimes people say, do I need a lot of business experience to buy a business? Well, I know people who haven't got a lot of experience, but have done very well. But what I would say is you should have a business head on your shoulders. And I think that's really important. You should have a business head on your shoulders. I think that, you need to build up to buying a business if you have no business head, if you know what I mean. But if you have a business head on your shoulders, if you think in a business-like way, then buying a business can cut out several years of trial and error of startups. And also, if you do this right, you need not take any personal risks, because that's a big concern that people have. What happens if it all goes wrong? I mean, the thing is, that sort of disaster environment very, very rarely happens. And if you've set it up correctly, then there is no personal risk at all. And one of our panelists today, one of his acquisitions went a little bit wobbly, but it's how you deal with it and if you set it up correctly. So I may well be asking him some questions about that as well. The next thing to remember is that you do not need to become an accountancy or a legal expert. And I think that's really important to remember. Sometimes people think, well, I need to know everything about numbers and I need to know everything about the legal aspects of buying a business. That's just not the case. 80% of the hard work is done by others. Your focus is on finding a business to buy and closing the deal. Let the accountants do the accountancy. Let the lawyers do the legal work. Let the due diligence do the due diligence. And this is why you need what's called a deal team. And a deal team are the people around you who do 80% of the work while you take 100% of the success and 100% of the accolades from others. A very important point I just want to make clear here is that you're not necessarily looking for a distressed business. Some people love distressed businesses, but for your first acquisition, you're probably not looking for a distressed business. You are looking for what we call a distressed owner, someone who's just had enough and wants to get out, someone who doesn't want to be in business anymore. And that is one of the motivations people have for selling their business. So what we look for when we look for a business to buy is what we call a star deal. And the star has 5 points to it. And these are the 5 elements of what we call a star deal. The first is the motivation of the person selling the business. And I think it's very, very important to know that there is no point trying to buy a business from someone who doesn't want to sell it to you. And I sometimes hear about people, not people who've done my training, I hasten to add, but I do hear about people who chase the owners of businesses, trying to persuade them to part with their company, to sell it. And I think that that's probably a big, big, big mistake. I only ever buy a business from someone who is very motivated to sell their business. Why? Because quite frankly, that is the best way to get the best deal. And some people find that a little uncomfortable. They say, "Well, Jonathan, so what? So you're always going after the very best deal possible?" Well, yes. The answer is yes, because if I can buy on my terms at the lowest possible price, then I'm winning before I've even started. So I'm looking for an owner who has a very, very sensible view on valuation. Someone who doesn't think their business is worth millions when it is not. And it is such a delight when you meet a business owner who is just realistic about what they're sitting on. And quite often, though, you don't meet those people, and you meet people who believe their business is worth a small fortune when quite clearly it isn't. But in our star deal, we're looking for that motivated seller who is sensible about the valuation. And also, I always look for businesses that have potential, businesses that have room for growth, because you might find what you would describe as the perfect business. And my question to you is, if this is the perfect business, where are you going to add value? Where are you going to take it? So I like businesses that have seen better days, who've done better in the past than they are right now, but have the potential to grow again with some very, very simple changes. And just as a quick tip, quite often the best change you could ever make to a business is removing the existing owner when they sell you the business. And sometimes owners say, "Well, can I stay on as an employee?" And I'm always very uncomfortable with that. I mean, it's horses for courses, but for me, I want a clean start with new ownership rather than the previous owner still hanging around in the business. I'm also looking for a business that I can buy with a structure that works for me. Now, clearly, it's got to work for the seller, otherwise they wouldn't sell you the business, but it has to work for me. That's really, really important. And for me, the very, very best structure is a structure where I don't have to put any money into the acquisition at all. So just before Christmas, I completed on 2, one on Thursday, one on Friday. On the Thursday one, we used the money in the bank to pay what we describe as the initial consideration. So that's the bit that the seller gets on day one. And we used the balance of the money in the bank to buy the business on the Friday. So the Thursday acquisition funded the Friday one. So we had to do it in the correct order. The Thursday acquisition funded the Friday one, and the money that we put from Thursday acquisition into the Friday one, we've already got that back out from the trading of the business. So the structure has to work. And then I'm looking for simplicity of deal. I mean, sometimes you get businesses where there are half a dozen owners, and we've got this owner who's in this country, that owner they can't get hold of, this owner wants to sell, this owner doesn't want to sell. And I'm thinking, you know what, there are so many businesses to buy. Why would I spend time trying to make a deal work when half of the parties don't want it to work. So my star deal is always motivation, valuation, potential, structure, and simplicity. And if I've got those 5 elements, it gets a double thumbs up from me and we push ahead with it. And later on, I'm going to give you the new negotiating structure that we're using right now. And for 2021, it's just perfect. And it's very different, I think, to what you may have heard me say before. So let's look ahead to next year, some of the business buying trends and predictions. And we've got an interesting, perfect storm at the moment. We've got several things happening in the world right now that are combining in a very unusual way. We've got a pandemic, we've got a recession, and in the UK, we've got Brexit. So we've got these 3 things happening. Now, you could curl up behind your sofa and hope it's all going to be over. The pandemic's going to go away, the recession's going to go away, and Brexit won't go away, but we'll deal with it the best we can. But if you put these 3 things together, I think what you actually have is an opportunity. And this is an interesting approach because some people would look badly at you if you said that next year is an opportunity. I've got a feeling, though, that people on the conference today won't feel like that because quite clearly by being on a conference like this, you're optimistic about the future. Well, you've got a very, very good reason to be optimistic. Getting into buying a business at this moment in time is absolutely perfect. So here are some of the things that are going to be happening, I believe, over the course of the next year. The first is more businesses will become available in the next 12 months to buy than in the last decade. So there's going to be a rush to market, and several things are going to be driving that. Quite clearly, pandemic and recession, maybe Brexit, but pandemic and recession are 2 drivers to that. Another driver is that in the UK, the chances are very, very high that the tax structure will change for people selling their businesses. Now, in the UK at the moment, there's a preferential tax position for people who are selling the shares in their company. The chances are that the Chancellor, in order to bring in as much money into the government as possible, will scrap that special relief that entrepreneurs get, which means that people will want to sell before that tax relief is scrapped, which means that more people will come onto the market selling their businesses. Now, this is simple supply and demand. If there are more sellers than there are buyers, and there always will be. I mean, I train a number of business buyers, but they are a drop in the ocean compared to the businesses that are available to buy. So it becomes a buyer's market, which means the buyers can dictate the terms. And January is going to be the start of a tidal wave. People come back from their Christmas holiday time, from the time they're taken off, typically sort of 2 weeks, Christmas, New Year, a 2-week period, and they have to return to the office on the 4th of January, and they want to, they come back and they have to sit beside their desk and they look at their business and they go, why am I doing this? It's that anxiety that people have going back to work. Business owners have it too. So January is going to be the start of the tidal wave. Towards the end of January, when those people come back, they realize after a couple of weeks back, why am I doing this? Let's sell the business. Again, incredible opportunity for business buyers. I also believe that no money down deals will become commonplace. I think that it's fair to say that only a savvy group of business buyers right now are doing deals in smart ways. There are always going to be people who look down their nose at this and think that you should go and remortgage your house, or they think that you should go and borrow a lot from the bank with personal guarantees, but let them do that if they want to. But if you want to do it the smarter way, you can buy businesses, especially in this environment, with what we call no money down deals. It doesn't mean that the business is free, although sometimes they're virtually free. It doesn't mean that the seller doesn't get anything. It means that you just aren't using your own money to finance the acquisition. Sometimes you're using what we call asset finance or invoice discounting. I'm going to be speaking to one of our panelists later about how they've done that in some very successful acquisitions this year. But also, it can mean that we structure the deal in such a way in that the company that we're buying funds its own acquisition. And I just think that's a really clever way of buying a business. Can you buy every single business like that? No, of course you can't. But if you've got what we call deal flow, which is a flood of inquiries coming to you, the more businesses that you look at to buy, the higher the chance of doing a no money down deal. Now, the way people work around the world has changed as well. And one of the largest overheads in many businesses has been their office space, especially office space in cities. Now, home working was always considered to be a second best to working in the office, but now, of course, it's become an absolute necessity. So savvy business buyers can massively reduce the overhead of any business that they buy. Also, I believe that in the UK, British manufacturing will see a resurgence. And I was thinking this right back in April, when there started to be this slight suspicion of because we had so many problems. I should explain for our overseas listeners that we had so many problems with supplies of PPE coming in from other countries, and the British manufacturers, and I have some clients who bought manufacturing businesses because they have spotted this same trend as well. There's going to be this resurgence in manufacturing. The wonderful thing about manufacturing companies is that they tend to be asset rich, which means that you can use asset finance to buy the business. And I think there's going to be this boom in British businesses, and I think that means that buying businesses that supply to UK customers is going to go through a massive upward curve. I also believe that anyone planning on retiring in the next 5 years will consider selling now. And this is part of this flood of businesses coming onto the market next year, because something, if someone's going to retire in 3 years or 2 years or 4 years or 5 years, if someone comes along and says, look, I'm happy to buy your business from you, but we need to do a deal now, then I think that those plans will accelerate, which means that more and more businesses will come onto the market. And remember, when it's a buyer's market, the overall value is suppressed because you could buy their business, or you could buy the business next door, or the business down the road. So you've got more choice. So your negotiating power is massively improved. And I believe that you can build your personal business empire in the next 36 months, but you've got to get started now. If you get started now, just buy one business in the next few months, and then buy a second one, and then a third one, then a fourth one. You can build a business empire during these weird and recessionary times that will create an income for you and your family into the future. Or alternatively, it can be a business empire that you then sell for a small fortune. And the entrepreneurially minded person needs to prepare now. I see too many people saying, I will get prepared for the opportunity when the opportunity arises. So in other words, when I find the right business to buy, then I'll figure out how to learn how to buy it. Well, being on this webinar today, especially at this time of year, your timing is absolutely perfect. And I'm going to encourage you today to take some action. I want you to do something as a result of today's conference. The worst thing you can do is nothing. Unfortunately, some people will always procrastinate, but if you find yourself with a little tendency to procrastinate, overcome that procrastination, because I want you to do something as a result of today's conference. Now, I want to introduce you now to my first guest, who is Darren Jacobs. And Darren came onto my fast track program in, I believe it was May of this year. Darren, if you could unmute yourself and just switch on your camera, that would be great. And I'm going to find out a bit more about what Darren's been doing and how he's been doing multiple deals during lockdown. And Darren, what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and just bring you onto the screen here. Let's see if we can do this. So let's see if we can do that. Now this is where everyone finds my inability to work with Zoom very amusing. We'll carry on as we're carrying on there, and I'll try and make your image a little bit larger if I can. So Darren, would you like to give everyone a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Darren Jacobs. As Jonathan said, I joined the Fast Track program back in May. Prior to that, I'd run some businesses for quite some time. So generally in the IT and telecom sector, I'd had a kind of number of businesses there. And in recent years, I bought a few businesses, but really, not through it was mainly through luck rather than judgment. This year, as Jonathan said earlier, we've been pretty busy buying. We're up to 21 now since the back end of May.
And that's pretty fast going. So would you describe yourself, it's a bit of a leading question, but would you describe yourself as an ambitious person, Darren?
Yes. Yeah, I don't like sitting still. I never have, to be honest, but to go through, we've had the IT business for probably 15 years. For the last 3 or 4 years, we started to buy more IT businesses, and to go from 3 over the course of 3 years to 21 in the space of 7 or 8 months, whatever it's going to be. I would say I was ambitious. I certainly, I've always had this kind of goal to retire at 40, and I turned 40 in October. So I've always been really gunning for that target, and I'm there or thereabouts in terms of having freedom of time.
So just so people can get a concept of the 21 businesses that you've bought in the last few months, do you know what the group turnover would be?
Yeah, it's around 5.5 million. It's somewhere between 5 and 6, but I think it's around 5.5. The businesses we bought, and really this stems, so my daughter's in the kind of hair dressing space, and I helped her buy a business back in May. And in going through that process, you start looking at the margins, you go, comparing it to buying an IT business, for instance. I found it a lot easier. And so we started sending letters out beginning of June. We sent 1,500 letters out to a number of hair salons around the south of England. And we had just over 300 people respond to that first batch of letters. And really things just snowballed from there.
So just for everyone's clarity, this is my approach of contacting the owners of the businesses, not going to business brokers, not sort of scouring websites where most of the websites, they're actually listings by business brokers anyway, but actually going to the owners directly. Could you just explain to everyone what the advantage is of going to owners?
Yeah, I guess this really stems from the disadvantages of going through brokers. So if someone wants to sell their business, typically what they'll do is go on Google, type sell my business, and they'll hit a whole wave of brokers. And there's all sorts of stats around, but to summarize, not many people that go via brokers sell their businesses, and all the brokers tend to do is overinflate the price, and then they make it really difficult for the seller to sell and really difficult for the buyer to buy, and they actually just complicate the process. So in sending letters or whatever approach you might take, what you're doing is getting in front of those sellers and seeding that idea in their head before they reach that point of Googling or whatever they do, but Googling sell my business. You've got a much greater chance of buying the business from that position.
I think most people would think, oh my goodness, how on earth do you manage 300 inbound contacts? Presumably that was over the space of a few weeks. It wasn't altogether.
Yeah, so we sent the letters out. I think it was on the 3rd of June. It was something like that. We sent the first batch of letters out, and I mean, I made the mistake of sending all 1,500 letters out within 24 hours. And 3 days later, the phone starts to ring, and luckily, I mean, I had the IT business, and some of the staff in that business were furloughed, and I was able to quite quickly take them off of furlough and bring them into this business and get them answering the phone for me, and they were able to kind of answer some of those initial questions, or sorry, ask some of those initial questions, and kind of
So this
weed
is my
out.
template of questions.
Yeah, a template of questions. I mean, where we had such an influx of calls coming in and WhatsApps and emails, we had to very, very quickly qualify out the ones that just wouldn't, they weren't going to work. The turnover was too low. It was a owner-occupied business, in there. It's just the owner in there with maybe one other member of staff, where you can't really, buy the business, the owner exit, and then you can't really do anything with those kind of companies.
Yes.
So we qualified out very quickly the ones that just didn't meet the criteria, and the ones that did, we then very quickly dropped into a CRM system. So we had some way of pushing them through a funnel. And I got involved really towards the back end of that funnel, where we had to negotiate a deal and get ahead of terms and everything agreed.
So let's talk about negotiating the deal. So would you say that they were tough negotiations?
Not really. I mean, again, if I'm comparing it to buying an IT business where the owners are slightly more business savvy, typically when you're buying, for instance, a ladies' hair salon, the owner of that business, they generally know their trade a lot better than they know business. And when you know how to buy a business and you've been through that process and you've got the right kind of, training and coaching education behind you, you very quickly become the authority in those discussions. So I was trying to talking to people, and they were saying, look, I don't know how to sell my business. You tell me how this works, and you tell me what it's worth, and how where we go from here. So you get to control from start to finish the whole process, which does make it a hell of a lot easier.
So would you say then, because I repeat this ad nauseum, which is, if you know more about buying a business than the seller knows about selling a business, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But knowledge is power, I suppose, in this respect.
Knowledge is power. And one of the other things you really press a lot, and it only became apparent to me when we started sending these letters out, is how important deal flow is. And having 40, 50 businesses on the table in front of you, all wanting to sell to you, you get to pick the best ones out of the crop.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier about being a buyer's market. I can't back that statement up enough. There are very few buyers in comparison to the number of sellers out there. So actually, when you're sat across the table or on the phone to the sellers, have that in your mind, because it does give you an authority over that discussion with them.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I mean, authority, I think, is a very important characteristic to develop. And I think that authority comes from confidence, and the confidence comes from knowing what you're talking about. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, you're never going to sound confident. So I think people who try and wing it are always going to struggle with the people who have a system and a process, like clearly you had, will come out on top. Is that fair to say?
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. And it does, from one deal to the next. I mean, we've bought what is going to be 21 hair salons in the last 7-8 months. And not one of those conversations has gone exactly the same as another. So you've got to have enough, knowledge. You've got to kind of sound like you know what you're doing and be able to answer curveball questions, which will come up from time to time. Absolutely. But
so,
yeah, sorry.
So how much of this did you actually, of these 21 acquisitions, did you do yourself? And how much of it was subbed out to either your staff or your deal team? So how much of or what percentage of the work did you personally undertake?
So what I ended up doing, and I did this within the first week or two. So when the first, batch of phone calls started coming in, and you could see the level of response that this was going to generate, I brought someone in to answer the phone and qualify deals in or out really, really quickly. And that same person would send out non-disclosure agreements and effectively do all of the admin side of the kind of deal process. I already had an accountant that I work with in the IT business, which we've now sold. And the conversation I had with him was, as we bring these on board, you're going to pick up all of the accounting services. So I want you to do all of the, not all of it, but a lot of the kind of financial work for me, but I don't want you to charge me. And he was quite happy with that because he's now got 21 lots of year-end accounts to file and payroll and 150 people on payroll every month. So I really got involved in negotiating the deal, getting the heads of terms agreed. Other than that, we've got a set of legal people that do a lot of that for us on a retainer. My accountant does pretty much everything in the deal process for free, on the basis he will pick up the business once we win it. And then we've got an admin kind of team now in the office that do all of that paperwork and back and forth on emails throughout. And we're down to our average deal is now taking around 3 weeks. We were at a month, or probably a couple of months realistically at the start, but we're now, from the point we get a call in, we are setting the timescales with the seller. We're telling them when we need due diligence back, and we're telling them that we have an investment cycle. We've kind of coined this new term, investment cycle of X months, and they have to slot into our schedule. And in order for that to happen, they have to work to our timescales. So we control that schedule.
Yeah, no, that's a really good plan. Again, I see new deal makers who haven't really got a system to follow spend months and months and months, and they haven't even got to a price. They haven't even reached the point. I mean, I'm going to give everyone a 7-day process in a few minutes, but they spend months and they haven't even reached a price that everyone's happy with. And of course, if you're going to have big ambitions like you have and do multiple deals, then you can't spend. It's just impossible to spend that amount of time, just going backwards and forwards with rapport building.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, going back to deal, when you've got 40 or 50 of these, if you've got one or two on the table, you tend to really, that you get desperate to get one of those closed, and you spend lots of time on it. You make lots of concessions on price or terms, or, and you start to kind of lose a bit of control over the process. When you've got 40 or 50 sat in front of you, you almost become a bit, for want of a better term, a bit kind of arrogant about it. And if that doesn't fit and the price doesn't work for the seller, we move on and call me in a year's time when you want to talk again.
Absolutely.
And typically I'll get a call from them, a few weeks later.
Yes.
Once they know I'm not going to come back.
The less you want it, the more they want to sell it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've had all sorts of seller profiles, I guess, lots of retirees. We've had lots of people just, COVID probably hasn't helped. I mean, we're buying salons that in the UK keep getting shut because of COVID. So every time that happens, you get a fresh wave of phone calls come in because that second lockdown has just tipped them over the edge. It's been
and what's the plan then for 2021?
Well, we were aiming to kind of close off this kind of first wave in November. I mean, we're getting these deals done, and I genuinely, I haven't put a single pound of my own money into any of these businesses. So we were planning to kind of shut down this first wave around the end of the year. We're now looking towards kind of back end of Feb going into March. But the longer term plan for us, I mean, we've got 21. I think we'll be at 25, maybe slightly above that, come mid March. And then what we want to do is build a bit of a run rate. So I mentioned, my personal goal was to retire at 40, and retirement for me was getting control of my time. Hence, I've just sold the tech group back end of November. And so what I don't want to do is kind of replace one job with another job. So now what I'm considering doing is bringing people into the deal process and taking more of that off of my plate.
Yeah, very sensible.
And building a bit of a run rate. I mean, our run rate is going to be somewhere between two and four a month, which is what we're aiming to kind of ramp up to going into Q2.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant. And what would you say then what tip, I guess if you were to give one tip to everyone on the conference today, what would it be?
Do something. Yeah. So I went on the, I was fortunate in that I had a business. I kind of bought a few businesses, over the last few years. I've gone on the fast track. I sent some letters out and I bought 21 since that point. And I see a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of people since, I've been on some podcasts and everything with you, and I've spoken to a lot of people. And the one thing I always see is people want to do things, they want to learn, they want to buy businesses, but they don't do anything. They don't kind of get the ball rolling and the engine started. So my biggest tip to anyone will be, print out 100 letters and put them in the post and get your phone ringing.
Yeah, to actually do something. Brilliant.
Do something.
Yeah. No, that's really good, Darren, and I appreciate your coming on today to share your experience. Maybe you could wait until the end, because we'll do some Q&A at the end, and sure. I'm sure there's lots of questions for you. Sure. But for now, Darren Jacobs, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you. So if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will, quite frankly. So, but I want to give you my deal negotiation process. And this is refined for 2021 off the back of what I'm doing right now with my own acquisitions. So I'm going to give you an overview of how this process works, because I think someone coming into this new sees buying a business as this big, scary beast in front of them, and they're not quite sure how to attack it. So I'm going to show you the process. I'll give you an overview of the process and go into a little bit of detail, and then I'll introduce you to my next guest, Andy Doyle. So the first thing to do is to decide on a business sector. I know it sounds a little strange, but or a little obvious perhaps, but deciding on a business sector is a really important starting point. Now, it doesn't mean that you're stuck with it forever. It doesn't mean you have to decide upon one sector and you have to ignore everything else. Some people start with 3 and then they narrow it down according to what's happening in the market and how many responses they get. But that is your starting point. And I think it's really important to have what we call a business acquisition strategy. And you just heard Darren's very, very clear business acquisition strategy. He's not looking at half a dozen different types of businesses. And he's focusing on one thing, and he's doing one thing really well. Then you need to get the data. You need to get the names and the addresses of the people who own businesses in that sector. Really important second step. Then you need to send out at least 250 letters. Now, just about every single one of my private clients uses a letter template that I've devised that can be adapted to any set of circumstances, any sector. It can be personalized to make it yours, but the structure is just so effective because people who want to sell, when they get this letter, they respond to it. And the next step, number 4, is that once you've sent out the letters, within days, sometimes depending on the postal system, it can be the very next day, you will get people contacting you saying, I want to sell my business. Now, we're going to do the first meeting on the phone. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to see anyone. You can just do the first meeting on the phone. And that has a structure to it, very important structure. And then as a result of that phone meeting, if you like what you hear and it's a business that you're interested in, we're going to receive the decision-making information. And this decision-making information will help us get an idea of value, how much the business is worth to us. And then we're going to do a second meeting. We can do this face-to-face. Alternatively, we can do it by Zoom. We're doing more and more by Zoom or sometimes by FaceTime now, simply because we have to. And you can't stop your acquisition process because of a lockdown. You've got to do it despite the lockdown. Now, on that second meeting, we're going to put together a deal. And this is the bit that surprises people. They say, surely you've got to have multiple meetings and you've got to go backwards and forwards. No, we want to put together a deal as quickly as possible, because if we can't make a deal, we have to move on to the next one. And if we can make a deal, great. We've got a business that we've got a very good chance of buying. And then we sign the heads of terms to say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to pay for it, potentially how we're even going to structure it. The legal process starts at this point. The due diligence runs in parallel. And again, if you're not familiar with that phrase, that's the checking that we do to check the business is what we think it is. Possibly as a result of that due diligence, we renegotiate the price, because sellers of businesses sometimes don't tell you the entire truth about their business, and they exaggerate a little bit for effect, shall we say. But this is where you discover what they're exaggerating on. And then we complete the deal. I mean, it sounds incredibly dramatic, but the more you do, sometimes that completion is a little bit of an anticlimax. We take over the business. Very, very important. People often forget how important step 14 is, because look, you've got a group of staff who've just discovered that you're their new boss, you're the new owner of the business. Now, remember, you're not going to run the business, but you do own the business. And you've got to integrate, if you're buying more than one business over a period of time, you've got to integrate those staff into the culture of the group. So this is a really important part. And then we're going to rinse and repeat. We're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. For in case of Darren's time, 21 times in the last 7 or 8 months. Again and again and again and again. And that is the overview of the process. Now, a couple of tips for you on this. The seller typically will contact you by phone. Maybe they text you on the phone number that you've given them, and an email. So these are the 3 ways that people contact you. But you want to move to a phone call as quickly as possible, because email negotiations always fail. So you want to have that conversation. You want to start building that connection. You want to hear in their voice what the business is like, not just read it off an email. Now, post-conversation, we're going to receive some basic information about the business, and this will help you decide whether you're interested in buying it or you're not, as the case may be. But also it might start to suggest a deal structure. So a business with lots of assets might imply there could be some asset finance involved in buying the business. Now, on our second contact, either face-to-face or by Zoom, remember, we want to find out what their price expectations are. Now, when you become more confident with your deal making, you might actually have a conversation about price on that very first phone call. And we actually do, because I think that the quicker we can have that price conversation, the better. There's no point putting it off. And I know some people who don't have this process to follow. They are worried about talking about money, and they push the money conversation into the future so far that by the time they get to the money conversation, they realize that they're too far apart from the seller's expectations, and it's a deal that can never, ever be done. So let's find out what they want for the business nice and early. And by the way, when someone says they don't know, don't believe them. Everyone knows. Now, what we need to do now is we need to negotiate, and that's going to reduce those expectations. And I think that this is a really, really important part of the process, because if you do this right, whatever number they say at number 1, the first bullet on the page here, we can halve it. We can halve it by reducing their expectations, by being good negotiators. The good news is that negotiation can be learnt. It's not something that you're necessarily born with. Everyone can do it. You've just got to follow the process. And then we're going to introduce deal structure. How are we going to structure this? And of course, you'd never say to someone, look, I'm going to buy your business and I'm not going to spend any of my own money. I mean, quite frankly, it's none of their business how you fund it, as long as they get what they want. But when we talk about deal structure, what we want to do is to do this in the smartest possible way. And I think that the more you can avoid putting your own money in, the better. The more you can avoid going to a bank, the better, because that could just take months and months and months, and then you discover that you can't fund it. With sub 5 million revenue businesses, you can fund most times the acquisition of the business from the business that you are buying. Some people seem to be very, very against this, but if you're going to be a savvy business buyer, that's exactly what you need to do. And in that second contact, that Zoom, that face-to-face meeting, quite frankly, all I'm concerned about at that meeting is, can we do a deal? Can we get a deal done? And if the answer is no, we walk away, but we leave the door open. If the answer is yes, then we set a time scale and we work towards that time scale. And that time scale is a matter of weeks. But this whole process, from the very first time the seller contacts you to finding out whether you've got a deal, does not have to be drawn out. You can do that in less than 7 days. Again, contrary to popular wisdom that it takes months of building rapport and playing golf with them and going for dinner with them, forget all of that. Right now, 2020, 2021, we can get deals done faster than ever before. And again, I think this is a relief to people, because those of you who haven't got much time, and let's face it, most of us don't have much time, saying, yeah, it's going to take me 3 months even to find out whether I can buy this business or not, that's out of the window. It's now a 7-day process. So I want to introduce you now to another of my special guests, Andy. Andy, if you could just unmute yourself, please. And that's great, Andy. Thank you. We can see you as well. That's brilliant. Because Andy and I have known each other for a number of years now. And I hope you don't mind me saying, Andy, that when we first met, you did tell me several times that you didn't have time to buy a business. And I said, Andy, we've spent more time saying we haven't got time than we're actually doing it. So tell me, what changed for you? Because you've done so well over the last few years.
Just one thing, I can see Darren on the screen rather than, if that's interesting, Raymond. So, sorry about that. So what's changed? I mean, I did the Dealmakers 12-month program with you. And, you know, I'd always had aspirations. You know, the business I'd ran for 15 years, which was, an agency, a digital agency, I couldn't get it to grow anymore. It just stagnated at a certain level and it was getting frustrating. And I think when a business stagnates, costs still go up. So you suddenly see it's harder and harder. So for me, really, I saw you on a sort of a quick thing at Heathrow, and then signed up for Dealmakers. And that really sort of made me realise that we can do it. and that we've got to just get on with it, follow it with the process. I mean, I'm quite process driven. So
tell me about the first acquisition, because that was quite a game changer for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was one thing you said during the Dealmakers about, buying a business bigger than your own. It shouldn't stop you. So the first one we did was a company. I sent out 1,000 letters over the course of about 2 weeks, I think it was, something like that. And then we got quite a few replies and, had a deal flow. So this company, they were relatively local to us, which was good. So I rang him and he instantly, that whole rapport thing, he told me all he wanted to do was become an ambulance driver. He'd had enough of working in digital, which was really nice, I think. So yeah, we had a chat and, within a very short amount of time, we'd agreed that this was going to be a go ahead. Let's understand the numbers and how we structure it. But, the business, and now, 2 years later, the business is probably about 70% of the turnover of the group.
So the business that you bought is 70% of your new group turnover.
Yeah, so we've grown it since we bought it. So I've got someone else who manages the day-to-day of it, obviously. But we've got some really good big clients on. It's all around e-commerce. So this year has been the year of e-commerce as well. So yeah, it's really sort of growing and growing. You can see it month on month, what we did this year compared to last year.
So tell us, with that first acquisition, how much of your own money was required? And if there was any required, how quickly did you get it back?
So when we were buying the business, they had a slight overdraft. And just for simplicity, rather than anything, we had cash flow in another business. We took some cash out of one business and loaned it to the company on the day of purchase, with agreement from the bank to clear the overdraft, because that was a requirement for the new owner. And then by the end of that month, I think it was like 10 days later, we got the money back. And that was the only money we spent. All solicitors' fees and everything like that came out of the business we were buying. Here I am.
That's really quite impressive. And is that business worth? I don't need to share anything that's personal, but is it worth hundreds of thousands a year in revenue, or millions, or what sort of scale is it?
It's over $1 million now. It's over $1 million. And my original business is about, actually, it's probably not 70. Yeah, so there's 5 in the company, in the group now. So the stats are, that one's over $1 million, and the next one in the group is about $500,000.
Very good. And then I alluded to this earlier. Your second acquisition was a little wobbly, but you dealt with it really well.
Yeah, it was a learning curve, and I think it's one thing you say, Jonathan, is speed is of the essence. That one took a long time for no particular reason apart from the seller. The seller was just, not moving very quick, and wanted all those dinners out and chats and beers and things. And it's maybe I sort of quite liked him, and it was quite nice just to hang out. But we did the due diligence, but because it took time in between doing due diligence and completion, the business had got itself into a lot more trouble. It was slightly distressed, and it became very distressed by the time we bought it. But again, it didn't cost us any money at all. And in the end, when we closed the business, very soon after buying it, we bought all the IT equipment because we put in our own administrator, so he was quite nice with us. We bought all the IT kit from there for next to nothing, which that was good. 20 Macs and 40 monitors, and so when you're growing a business, we had a whole load of kit. So yeah, it wasn't great, but it wasn't. It was a good learning curve.
But it didn't cost you anything,
apart from time and a little bit of emotion, I suppose, and a bit of pride. But about that was it.
So how do you feel that you've gone from business owner to deal maker? Just describe that emotional journey. How is life different for you?
But in the last 2 years, now we've got there's 3 actual separate entities, but it's 5 companies in the group. I don't do any of the day-to-day. I used to be doing the payroll every month, paying the invoices, running around like a headless chicken. I've got another company outside the group, which obviously is taking up time as well. So I don't do any of that anymore. And now, because we are at a certain point, I've got a guy doing biz dev, so I don't have to go out and do the sales anymore. I'm sort of just like touching base, really, like I suppose a chairman. And from the end of January, we're even bringing in a formal MD to run the group. And effectively, I'm sort of completely out. I'll still own, 60%, but yeah, I'll be completely out of any day-to-day running apart from to support him in the transition, really.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I sometimes hear people say, I'd love to buy a business, but I feel like it's going to be too time consuming. I've already got a full-time job or a full-time business. What would you say from your experience? How does that work?
I would say, everybody thinks they're really busy and other people can do it. There's nothing like just getting on with doing it. And for me, I was working long hours, running a company which wasn't growing as quick as I wanted. And don't get me wrong, it's not a walk in the park, everything, but but now I can focus on the separate business, which is one of the things I wanted to focus on. And from January, I feel like I've got all the time. I'm down to, I mean, I don't do 5 days a week anymore. On my birthday in a couple of weeks, I should be down to 3 days. But yeah, I just focus on acquisitions next year. I mean, that's the point you're getting in the MD. I'll just have time to focus on that. That'd be great. So everyone's got time to do it. That's the myth that you haven't. Because the lawyers do it, as you say. I mean, my account is amazing. You give him the company, tell him to get the accounts, and he comes back and gives you a cost and a yay or a nay.
And so this is, again, having this deal team that you can outsource this work to, so you don't have to do it all yourself, but you take all the credit at the end.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I might, for the one deal we did, the third reasonable sized business we bought, which we charged them to buy it, which he set up. I mean, we actually made a profit on buying that one.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I know we don't have time to go into the details of that now, but that's something that people find a little bit like, whoa, hang on. You mean you bought a business, but they paid you to buy it effectively?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. So we charged them an acquisition fee, and then we were getting some sort of government tax rebates on their behalf after acquisition. And the agreement was the 3 directors would get some of that, but we would take a portion of that as well. So yeah, so the acquisition fee, I won't go into detail about the cost of the business, but I think it's about 15,000 fee. It worked out, something like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bit of a mind-blowing concept to people hearing that sort of thing for the first time, because everyone thinks it's like you put your entire life savings into an acquisition and then you cross your fingers and hope that it works, where in actual fact you can de-risk it, it doesn't cost you anything, and you might even make money at the point of acquisition, not just later. And that first acquisition that you made, I didn't actually realize that was now such a substantial part of the group. So it was an incredibly savvy move of yours right back at the beginning, wasn't it?
It allowed us to have an admin person. It allowed us to have someone running the day-to-day operations. It's allowed us to then, now look at the MD. I mean, I can't describe how much life is different now than it was 2 years ago, to be honest.
That's really wonderful. And the fast track program that I'm going to be my sales pitch, which is coming up soon. You actually helped me out on one of those programs, didn't you? With looking after the clients during that. What do you feel people get out of something like that?
The number one thing is the confidence to do it. You can't get into any trouble by just starting off doing it, and it is a process. And that program really just gives you the ability to go, if I do this, and once I've done that and I get some letters back, then I can move on to stage 2 and 3. And it gives you that 100%. And Darren alluded to it. If you become across slightly more expert than and you don't have to be Jonathan J expert, but you have to be slightly more expert. That fast trust program will give you the terminology and the sort of confidence to be able to say, well, typically that's not how people will buy a business like yours, and things like that. And that whole ability just to not come, as my children call it, not come across as a newbie.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is everything. The first one we bought, the deal came quick, but like I said, it was a lot of, even after, during the mastermind, my natural thing was I was a bit less confident. The other ones, to be honest, I was just like, no, this is the way it happens. Simple as that. And Darren alluded to it, saying, you might feel a bit arrogant, but it's not really arrogance. It's just knowing what you're doing. And I think the fast track, by sort of halfway through it, people should be thinking, actually, yeah, I can watch the rest of it while doing the first bit.
Yeah. So I see, because it's a Monday to Friday program. And at the beginning of the week, you got that sort of natural trepidation. Am I doing the right thing? And this sort of slight anxiety. But then by Tuesday, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I can see this is all falling into place. And by Friday, I can just tell from the questions that people ask me, it's a complete transformation of the way they think about themselves. They're a lot more confident. The way they think about business. People say, opened my eyes to just how to do business in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. When, the bit I was helping you with, wasn't it? Was the Facebook questions and stuff. And you could really see the start of it, people going, well, how do I find the companies? How do I do this? And it was all, come on, there is a thing called Google out there, and there is companies will do it. And the later on it was, I've got these responses and this is the question I've been asked, and it was real, like you could see people doing it, and that puts peer pressure onto the ones who aren't. It was really...
Yeah. So, but there's an evolution during just the course of a 5-day period, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. It was really interesting. People getting really confident and almost like pushing back a bit, going, "Yeah, but I don't think this is right." It's like, well, just trust it.
So let me ask you the question that I surprised Darren with earlier, and won't be a surprise now to our other speakers. But what would you say? What would you give as a tip? What would the tip be for someone who's just starting out?
I suppose that there's two parts to that really for response. The first part is you don't have to be some Alan Sugar type person to be going out acquiring businesses. Normal people. I'm a normal person who just started a business willy-nilly 15 years ago, and even that's irrelevant to this. Anybody can just go out and do it. That's the first thing. And the tip is, send out 10 letters, and if you've got 10, then go, I'll send out 20. Don't just send them, and it's amazing the response. So the tip is just do it. You cannot get any pain or hurt, from sending out letters and
nothing to lose. Yeah.
Practice on people, get the phone calls. If you fluff it, you don't buy that business. So what? But you'll get confident with the phone calls. I probably, the first 10 or 20 people I spoke to, I was a bit like, and then the later on ones, it was just became a natural conversation. And I really got what Darren said about getting, I set up a website with the questions, and I was starting to poke people towards that so they could go through the questions on a website, because I couldn't keep up.
Yeah, it's interesting. People often worry about, are there enough businesses out there to buy? And you've just said you had so many you couldn't keep up, and Darren was inundated. So it just goes to show that people have misconceptions that actually hold them back. And when they know, as a result of conferences like this, that in actual fact they can do it, then the doors open. I'm trying to find the right analogy, but and suddenly you can do something you never thought you'd be able to do otherwise.
Exactly. I mean, I think that I got a Christmas card, one of the ones in the list. I mean, it's 2 years ago, and there was one company I spoke to, and we had a few calls, but it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't in a position. This Christmas, I got a Christmas card offer to say, hiya, hope everything's going well. We're still here. And, and I just know at some point we'll buy that business.
Oh, I'm going to say that's
Christmas card offer. It's like, what?
It sounds like she's trying to suggest that you do get in touch, and she's initiating the contact, isn't she? So, Andy, would you stay online and later answer some questions when we do the Q&A?
Of course, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andy Doyle. Much appreciated. If there was the ability to give our speakers a round of applause, that's exactly what we'd be doing now. So that's great, Andy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, have I done that correctly? Yes, I think I have. Hopefully you can see me again. All right. So here's the question. If you want to do this yourself, what if I became your business buying mentor to get you started on this incredible business buying journey? And what if I taught you the system, the process that other people use, not just myself, but my clients use as well? And what if we did this by Zoom in January to start the year with a brand new business buying strategy? So you actually start the year saying, I'm actually going to get into business by buying businesses, or I'm going to grow my existing business by buying other businesses. So it's called the Fast Track Program, as you've heard Andy and Darren mention. And it's for several categories of people. It's for people who don't have any experience whatsoever. So we take it from the ground up. So you don't have to know anything at the start. Some people who come on the program actually do have some experience, but they want to sharpen that experience and maybe bring it up to date. You don't want to learn by trial and error, and you want to hit the ground running in January. I mean, the timing is just perfect for doing something like this. So it's a live interactive training program. And we do it via Zoom from my living room to your living room. So wherever I am to wherever you are. And we do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's UK time to 11:30 in the morning for 5 days. And I teach, we do Q&A, and we set you homework. So you've got something to do every single day to build your knowledge across the course of the 5 days. Now, the 2021 program starts on Monday, the 25th of January, but you're going to receive the pre-attendance materials today so that you can get started immediately, because I'm sure as a result of a conference like this, you don't want to wait a few weeks. You want to get going immediately. So we'll get you enough to get started. So again, so there's nothing to delay that business buying activity. So here's some of what we cover on the first day of the program, on the Monday: how to decide on the best business to buy, creating a winning acquisition strategy, how to avoid the wrong sector, and how to find the very best off-market deals. Now, you've heard both Andy and Darren say that they've sent out letters. You know, who do you send letters to? How do you make contact in the most effective way? How do we do all of that? So on Monday, we get that acquisition strategy right. And we also get the deal flow. And I think actually, coincidentally, both Andy and Darren mentioned deal flow and how important it is to have lots and lots of different businesses to look at. On Tuesday, I'm going to give you the exact scripting of what you say to the owner of a business to increase your trust and your credibility. And I think that's really, really important because I think, again, a lot of people get worried about, you know, what is someone, am I going to come across as a newbie? What if I say the wrong thing? Am I going to mess it up? So I'll give you everything that you need to say and everything that you need to do. I'm going to show you how to negotiate the deal to get at least a 50% discount. So whatever they think they want for the business, whatever they think it's worth, how you can reduce that by at least 50%. And if you're looking for return on investment with a program like this, just that section alone over the course of the next few years will save you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds, just by being a better negotiator. So I'm going to show you how to get the very best price and the very, very best terms. And we're not even halfway through the week yet. On Wednesday, I'm going to show you 8 ways to buy a business without using your own cash. So imaginative deal structures that mean that you don't rely upon going to a bank, waiting months for an answer, or dipping into your own savings, remortgaging your house or whatever. And then we're going to talk about something that people don't really think of. No one's mentioned it today, so far anyway, the difference between buying assets and buying shares. And it's very, very important to know the difference. And I'll show you the smart way of doing this. And again, it massively de-risks all of your acquisitions. And then I'm going to show you how to set up a holding company and a special purpose vehicle structure to eliminate all personal risk. And I think this is quite encouraging for people to know that you can buy a business and it will never come back to bite you. It really is completely separate from you personally. And then on Thursday, we'll talk about how to avoid personal guarantees. No one likes personal guarantees, how to do those. And then I'll show you the entire legal and accountancy process of buying a business. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to be an accountant. I'm not going to teach you how to be a lawyer. I'm not qualified to do so. But I'm going to show you the process from a deal maker's perspective, what you give to other people to do, what you do yourself, and so forth. And then we'll talk about a subject that is very, very, very relevant at the moment and will be even more so next year, buying a business out of administration. And I think that buying a business out of administration is a great strategy to have up your sleeve. And then on Friday, we talk about putting together your own deal team who can do 80% of the work for you. And you've heard already how important having a deal team is. So I'll show you exactly how to use a deal team to do 80% of the work while you get 100% of the credit. How to deal with the staff, suppliers, and customers once you've bought the business. And then I'm going to show you 8 of my most recent acquisitions, how I structured the deal, how I bought them. I'll show you the photographs, I'll show you the names, you can check them out for yourself, and I'll show you how I did each of the deals. And I think that's something that really brings it to life. Everything I teach you on the course, I'll show you how I use it on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So the usual price is £799 plus VAT, but I'm going to be doing a special conference offer for the January program if you would like to do this. But I want to give you some extras, and these are some extras that we're going to give you immediately today. The first are some videos. They are videos of real life deal negotiations. Me talking to owners of businesses, negotiating deals. And I've got to tell you that they're not all textbook. Some of those videos, I remember one in particular, as an older guy, gives me an incredibly hard time. Yeah, he really gives me a tough time on the phone, but you'll see how I deal with it, how I turn it around by the end of the conversation. So if you want to learn how buying a business works in real life, some people watch those videos again and again and again because it gives them a real insight into exactly how it works. I'm also going to give you a set of contracts, checklists, and templates to save you time and money. So I actually use the same purchase contracts again and again and again. It takes me about 10 minutes to change the details in each one. And we'll give you all that, the checklist, the templates, everything you say on the phone, the non-disclosure agreements, the sale and purchase agreements, the due diligence checklist, everything that you need in one place. And we're sending those to you today as well. Now, later next year, I'm going to be doing a live conference where we can actually meet people, or when we're allowed to meet people face to face. And I'm going to be inviting some of my deal makers, my deal team along to the conference, and we'll spend a day together. And I think you'll find that it's an instant social network for you. And also, this program in January is going to be recorded, and all the recordings are going to be put into a private YouTube channel that you're going to have access to forever. So you're going to have those recordings of the fast track program that you're on to access forever. So you can always come back and refresh the thing you want to go through again. So the conference special offer is £499 plus VAT, and it includes all the videos, the tickets to the event next year, the contracts and the checklist, and you get all the recordings as well. And the place to register is a web page on our website at the dealmakersacademy.com/fast, F-A-S-T. And if you register your place now, we'll actually give you a second place free. And there's no criteria as to who that second place goes to. It can be your business partner, it can be your life partner, it can be your brother, your sister, it can be a gift that you give to another business owner. It's entirely up to you, but you're going to get 2 places for the price of one. And we're also going to give you something called the resource that money can't buy. And the reason I call it the resource that money can't buy is because we don't sell it. Which is kind of clever. It's my deal sourcing letter. I've got 2 versions of it, and this is the letter that Andy's adapted for his purposes, that Darren's adapted for his purposes, and for myself, it's created a pipeline of 345 potential deals in the last 12 months. I've got 2 versions because you'll want to do a follow-up letter to the first one. And I've honed this letter to perfection. And all you have to do is put your name at the bottom, always helps, and change a few details in the letter. And that means that you can immediately start looking for businesses to buy. And we'll send that to you today too. So for the people who really want to get moving fast, you've got access to that immediately. So to summarize, you've got the 5-day business acquisition fast track program. You get the additional place free of charge. You get the 32 videos, the template contracts and checklists, 2 live / virtual tickets to the 21 Dealmakers Conference, recordings of the fast track program, the deal sourcing letters, total investment £499 plus the VAT. And there's always some frequently asked questions about this. So I'll just tell you what they are and what the answers are to those questions. The training runs from 10 o'clock in the morning to 11:30 in the morning. That's UK time, Monday to Friday. All the sessions are recorded, so you don't miss anything. So you can always catch up on the previous day via the recording. Those recordings are available to you forever. No one misses anything at all. You can ask me a question anytime after the course. So at the end of the 5 days, you've got access to me forever. You can drop me a note at any point and ask me a question. We don't shut the doors on you. That's very, very important to know. But you only get the free place and the free additional resources if you register now while the webinar is going on. And we're adding a very, very special Christmas/New Year's bonus. And it's something I haven't done before because it's incredibly time consuming. And I'm only doing it for the people who join this January program. And Maria in the office is going to faint when she sees this because she doesn't know I'm going to say this. But everyone who registers before the next speaker, who's Ray Burke, finishes, will receive a one-to-one Zoom business buying strategy session with me. So everyone who registers before the next speaker finishes, and they'll be on for about 20 minutes, will get a one-to-one Zoom business buying strategy session with me. So if you go to the dealmakersacademy.com/fast, F-A-S-T, you'll see a page there. You just fill in your details. It's very, very simple. We'll get the registration and then we'll start getting everything over to you this afternoon. Gareth Brooks says, sold. Looking forward to meeting you, Jonathan. Great, Gareth. Jump over and get on board before the next speaker finishes. Steve, I'll come to your questions later. Okay. Adam says, I signed up for your fast track program in December. Can I get the extra offers you talked about? I think you've already got them, Adam. If you check, you've already got them. Signed up. You're fast, Nicola. How fast can you do that? Patrick says sold, but the website is slow. That could actually be because we have a lot of people on the conference today, and when lots of people go to the web page at the same time, Patrick, that's why. Patrick, please keep on trying. Alfredo, I'll come to that long question later. Nicola signed up. Oh, I think I've just said that. Good to have you on board. Great. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce Ray, and while Ray and I are chatting, Jay Gagda says, just signed up, looking forward to it. Great, Jay, good to have you on board. And this is the very best offer you're going to get. I'm not a sort of a price slashing type person, but I thought I'd do a deal for January because the timing is just right. And if you're on a conference like this, quite frankly, you're here because you're seriously interested in a subject, and therefore I think you'll want to grab this with both hands. Adam Wills, good to have you on board, says signed up. Teddy says, I am in, sold. Good to have you, Teddy. Anonymous attendee, yes, there might be. Martin Lightbound says, did the fast track program in December truly life-changing if anyone is thinking of it? That's very good. Thank you, Martin. Put that on my LinkedIn profile. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much. Teddy says the links is slow, but it's loading. I'll be having a chat with my my web people about that. I'm in, says John Nelligan. Good, John. Good to have you here. Darren says, do you get all the contracts to do a deal? For example, heads of terms. Yes, you do, Darren. They're all in the file. Heads of terms is in there as well. Yes. Patrick, I'll come to that question later. Site is really slow, says Armando. I think that's probably because so many people are going to it at the same time. That's probably what the problem is there, but keep trying. I have actually had this before where so many people have gone to it at the same time. And it does work. You've just got to be persistent. You can use PayPal as well on there, as you can a card, a debit card, a credit card, and use PayPal. Dan from Leicester says signed up. Good to have you, Dan from Leicester. Gareth says, we'll sign up, but if I do it now, I have to leave the webinar. You don't have to leave the webinar, Gareth, but sign up before you go. Let's stop loading, says Teddy. Keep persisting. I can see lots of people have already joined. Yeah, lots of people have joined. So just keep on trying. People are getting through. Roy says, does the fast track program include actual resources in capital letters of where to pull large lists for business owners in the USA? Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Roy. I can give you those contacts in the US as well. Do you provide any contacts recommendations for establishing your own deal team? I show you on the Thursday, James, how to put together your own deal team. on the Thursday, how to put together your own deal team. Ryan, sorry, I don't know your first name, Mr. or Mrs. Ryan, signed up, loving your podcast. They've kept me busy during the last few days. That's good to know. Great to have you on board. Good to have you here. Sorry, Ray, we'll be with you in a moment. I wasn't expecting so many messages all at the same time. Lucas says, signed up. You need better hosting from your website. That's an interesting comment. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for letting me know that. Craig, I did the course in December. I take this as qualifies me to go to the Dealmakers Conference in 21. Yes, you're already on that, Craig. You're already going to be on that. Don't worry, you're on the list. Ben Clark says, I did your November fast track and it was amazing. I wish I'd waited for January though, as the value offer for the January attendees is incredible. Ben Clark, thank you very much for saying so. That's very kind of you. Chaplain says, does the website convert from the dollar to the pound? Well, the card processing people does that automatically. It's whatever the standard exchange rate is. NK says, should I register a holding company before any acquisition? Yeah, but don't do that yet. Come on the fast track first, and I'll tell you how to do that properly. Richard Holder says, signed up, can't wait for the program. Good to have you, Richard. Good to have you on board. Alexandra says, if I buy the program, can my business partner listen to the Zoom questions? Yes, you buy one, you get one free, Alexandra. So you get the second place free of charge. James says, website super slow. Sorry about that, James. I did actually give my web people a heads up that this was happening today, but Moosey says, page isn't loading. I'm ready with my debit card. Hope I don't miss the opportunity. Keep on trying, okay? I think it's just because there are lots of people trying to get on board at exactly the same time, which is the challenge, okay? So just please be persistent there, okay? It will work for you, I promise. You just need to be persistent with it. All right, I can see lots and lots of coming through here. That's wonderful. I'll answer some of these questions later on. I want to get Ray on. Does age matter for acquisitions? I'm 22. I've got some people in their 20s on the program. Sorry, page not loading, says James. This is a problem, isn't it? Just sign. Oh, but then Paul says just signed up. Looking forward to it. So it is working. It is. People are going through. Waymaker Digital, obviously your business name. I started the journey on the December fast track. Looking forward to January edition. Thanks for impacting and changing lives, Jonathan. That's very, very kind of you to say so. Thank you very much. Michael Chitton says, I'll sign up maybe for the one-to-one. Cheers. Good stuff. Good to have you on board. Alexandra says, can you please repeat again what we will get for the money? Okay, well, I'll just bring it back to this page here. I think that will help you there. Hi, Victor. Good to have you on board. Welcome. Shannon says, this is a bit unexpected. Can the offer stand for a longer time? Need to arrange funds. Still a student. Look, if you're a student, Shannon, too, and it's not affordable to you, and you don't have access to £499, then I would suggest that maybe it's not the right time for you. I don't want to ever stretch anyone with affordability. Shrees will have access to another person to attend the course with a separate login. Yes, if you look at the summary page there on the screen, you'll see that the second person gets a complimentary place. So Alexandra, that's got everything up on the screen for you here. Ray, I haven't forgotten you. We'll be coming to you in a moment. Amanda says, just paid after 3 months of watching you. Oh, bit creepy. Oh, you mean online? Okay, you don't mean actually really watching me. Finally pulled the trigger. Okay, great, Amanda. Good to have you on board. Registered, said Moody. Good to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All righty. So let's come over to Ray. And while I'm talking to Ray, if you want the one-to-one with me, you need to register while I'm talking to Ray. So Ray, could you unmute yourself, please, and put your camera on? That's good. So if I just click this, I think I can do that. Hi, Ray. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. And you?
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting there. I didn't expect such a flood of comments just at that precise moment. So Ray, you came on the fast track program in May. I believe that leading up to that, though, you'd been looking at a business to buy for some time. But then recently, you've done 3 big acquisitions. Tell us a little bit about the mindset that you developed to go from being the owner of a business to someone who now buys businesses.
Yeah, I suppose I had worked in various different businesses over the years. And and I seen that. Well, I always kind of wanted to start my own business. I had started my own business, and as I said previously to yourself, you give a kind of your soul for 3 to 5 years, whatever, and a lot of it is luck on how quickly it grows. Whereas I seen that it was a lot quicker to acquire businesses and bolt them all together rather than starting up and growing individually.
Yes.
So that was what kind of led me to getting in touch with yourself and going on the acquisition trail as such, you know.
So how would you say your lifestyle has changed? Because Andy was saying earlier that he used to sit in the office and used to do the invoices and you know, do a bit of everything. And I guess you did as well if you were the owner manager of your business. What does it look like in the businesses that you're buying?
Well, like all the businesses I'm buying, the reason I'm buying them is because there's a team in place. So there's structures and capacity. Whereas obviously when you're doing everything yourself as a startup, you're very, very limited on, you know, your team and your resources. So the haulage business that I would have mentioned to you previously, in the Heathrow area, that business, when I took it over, we 10 employees. We're now 20 employees, you know, so that in itself is it's scaling fast.
And I think that you and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but I think you told me that your original business, the one that was like the starting point for all of this, was a 7-year journey.
Yeah, 5 to 7 years. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was literally a startup, and it was, you know, started in my bedroom, and it obviously took years to grow it. So as a lot of businesses do, whereas that business that I mentioned there in Heathrow, that was started 42 years ago, you know. Now I'd done a share purchase of that, but I was piggybacking on all the goodwill in the business for the last 42 years.
Yeah. Which if it had been your business, you'd have to run it for 42 years, which sounds like a bit of a nightmare to me, in order to get to that.
Well, even something as simple as when you do start a startup in that kind of space, and you have to get insurance and diesel fuel cards and all that kind of stuff, the credit you'll even get as a startup is very, very limited because you've no trading history. Whereas when you buy an established business, straight away you're piggybacking on the year's history and the credit rating of that business previous.
That's so interesting. A business that so we were looking for a sort of a supplier of photocopiers, and you know, we've got these big photocopier machines in all of our locations. And the photocopier supplier looked at my my holding company, and of course it hadn't filed accounts, and they said, well, we can't give you the, you know, we can't do the credit agreement for the photocopier machines. And I thought, hang on, there's got to be a way around this. And then I realized I'd bought a business the week before, and I said, actually, I own this other business, and they immediately gave credit to the business that I bought. I'd only owned it for like 4 days. And so absolutely. So it gives you things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. But just to give us a sense of perspective, the businesses that you've bought, give us the annual revenue, just so we can sort of see how all the pieces fit together, would you?
So the first business I acquired was a turnover of $1 million. Second one I acquired had a turnover of 1.6 million, and then the third one 400,000.
And just to give us the context, your previous business that you've been building for half a dozen years was at what size?
500,000.
Right. And I think that, well, I mean, you've proven it to yourself, haven't you, that you can spend years getting to a certain point, or you can go and acquire, and you can buy that revenue and get it within a matter of, well, how long, over what period of time did you buy those 3 companies?
6 to 9 months.
Okay.
So it was all kind of, it was this year, you know.
Yes.
I suppose the other thing as well is, from the a scaling point of view, when you have more resources, you can grow a lot faster. And even with the business in Heathrow I mentioned, like that one, it's on track to double its turnover. And that's only within 6 months, you know. Whereas it just wouldn't be possible as a startup because, as I said, you'd have serious capacity limitations.
So now that you have, you've done 3 acquisitions in a very short space of time, and quite sizable ones as well. How has your approach and attitude towards business buying changed?
I suppose initially I wouldn't have looked or pushed myself into the distressed or you know, businesses in trouble area. Now I kind of see long term that the bigger businesses that are distressed, that's where more of the rewards are. So a little bit more short term pain for a bit more long term gain. Yeah, whereas initially had looked at more solid, stable, profitable businesses. Whereas now I tend to look at the capacity and the real opportunity, you know. I suppose it was one thing actually from talking to yourself recently as well, I was thinking about certain businesses in certain locations, there's a lot more scope with them than others. So, you know, as an example, if my Heathrow business was down in Cornwall, as an example, you couldn't grow as quickly as having it right beside London. So certain businesses like that, you can double or triple in a short space of time, whereas other ones with locations, classic being if it was one in Ireland, you couldn't grow it as quick, you know. So it's kind of the potential in the business I look at, as opposed to whether it can be bought easily or whatever. But yeah, I suppose as well, it's fitting the businesses together and what the potential is in total.
And just thinking ahead to next year, I mean, you know, there's a section of the population that are just sort of got their head down and hoping it's all going to be over. What's your attitude? What's your approach to buying businesses in 2021?
So, yeah, I'm looking at buying more. I've in the process of signing heads with 2 more garages. And on the first acquisition that I done earlier in the year, with these 2 new bolt-on garages, that'll double that first business, so it'll be twice the size of the original business. And if we can keep doing that and doing that, you're adding value. So if we can keep doubling and tripling, there's a couple of others that I would have looked at recently that I said of massive scope in the London area. And with some of them, there was one in particular that was, you know, it was like what you'd said before about a distressed business and a distressed owner. So it was actually both. But again, it had been trading 20, 25 years, loads of goodwill and massive capacity. And with that one, the potential in that is probably to double the size of the business in 12 months. And probably there's even scope to triple it within 2 or 3 years.
So here's a question, Ray. Would you believe if we could go back a year ago when you had that £500,000 a year business that you've been running for years, that you'd be having this conversation with me now?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have believed it. You know, it's only when you kind of get in the mindset and have all the tools at your fingertips that it's all possible.
Yeah, no, I understand. And so what flicked the switch for you then?
So as I had said to you previously, had been before I discovered yourself, had tried to do an acquisition on my own, but like a lot of people that make the mistake, there was one acquisition, so one deal. I didn't have deal flow and I didn't have a process. And of course, I wasted loads of time and some money on that failed acquisition. So it was only then that they started coming together, and I discovered yourself that, you know, everything came together at once.
Okay. And what would you say then would be your big tip for everyone listening and watching today?
Yeah, so anybody that's only getting on the journey and starting off the minute, I'd say go on the fast track scheme, try it, use all the resources. I actually, the two businesses that I'm signing up heads of terms with at this minute, have actually used your template. I haven't sent any letters yet, because, as you know, a lot of the previous stuff, it all came through brokers. I'm going doing the letters now as well. But there's so many different resources that if you use it all together, you'll have great results.
Yeah, brilliant, great. Thank you very much for joining us today. Very inspiring, and the best of luck for 2021. It sounds like you're going to do some great things.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, I've got lots of questions piling up for me here, so I am going to just turn to those. Right, okay. So if you would like to join us on the fast track, get all the bonuses, the second place free, and you want the one-to-one with me, your time is running out. I see a lot have come through already, which is great. Let's have a little look here. Right. Curtis says, Jonathan, amazing conference, not like the typical bore pull your hair out conferences. Thinking about the strategy, what data to use? Is it best to use registered office or trading address? Yeah, well, it is really, sometimes it's whatever you can get, because sometimes you don't have the ability to be too picky about things like that. Andy Green says, all signed up, looking forward to it. Great, Andy, good to have you on board. David says, I enrolled a few weeks ago. Do I have access to all the contract letters? Yes, you do. Yeah, absolutely, David. You'll never be shortchanged on anything like that. Fiona, I can see that you've written me a very long note. I am just skimming through it here. All right, so can I just get to extract one sentence? So Fiona says, how much actual support and guidance will I get with the current course offer? Well, you get my support and guidance for the week of the course, and then you can contact me about anything in the future. You know, let's be realistic. It's a £500 investment. I'm not going to come around to anyone's house and sort of do it for them, but I'll give you absolutely everything. I hope that's obvious. It's not track and trace. I'll give you everything you need to be able to do it yourself. And you can see people who take the course and then just run with it. So you don't need to learn how to read a balance sheet and things like that. No, you don't need to do that. That's exactly what your accountant is there to do. I would say, Fiona, if what we've been talking about on the conference today has inspired you, then I would be, I'd be just going with your gut. And if it feels right, to do it. It sounds to me like, you've seen me present live a year or two back, and you've been interested for a long time. Well, it sounds to me like now could be the time to make that move, Fiona. I hope we will be meeting you soon. Let me just look at some more of these questions here. Alan Eaglin says, I've also signed up, looking forward to the journey. Thank you very much. No problem. Neil Smith, all signed up. What about making a business profitable once you've purchased it? Yes, we do that on the Friday, Neil. We cover that on the Friday. Teddy says, deal done. Site working fine, Jonathan. Well done to your IT team. Well, I'm not entirely sure if they did anything in the last few moments. It may have been you just squeezed your way through the gap there, but good to have you here. Yeah, James, we don't do that for this one. Patrick says, all signed up, looking forward to it. Good to have you, Patrick. Anonymous attendee says, well, I have everything I need to go ahead and start buying businesses at the end of the 5 days. Yes, you will. Everything that you need. You can just jump straight in at the end of that week. Darren says, just sign up, Jonathan. Made a typo on my email. Hope American. Yeah, I just contact Maria, Darren. She'll be able to help you, but welcome on board. Fiona, yes, there are, but there's no obligation to by any means. Right, I'm going to come to just book my seats as anonymous attendee. Looking forward to joining. Anonymous attendee, I'd love to know who you really are. Chris says, on the fast track, you said the best way is to buy assets. Well, it depends on the circumstances. The money in the bank will not be able to use to fund the purchase using this method. Is that correct? No, you can still use money that the business receives even when you're buying just the assets. Craig says, signed up, can't wait to get started. Fantastic, Craig. Good to have you here. Right. So let's move on to my next guest. We've still got lots to talk about, lots to cover. So if you could just prepare, Graham, that would be great. If you could turn your camera on, please, and your audio. Graham, good to have you here. We can see you. I'm just going to do that. So I think that helps everyone to see. Graham, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, John. Yes.
Fantastic. Graham, would you give everyone a quick potted history, a synopsis of where you are in the world of business buying? Because you've done some amazing things in the last year or so.
Yes. Okay. Well, we, in terms of business acquisitions, we bought our first real sort of bigger type business back out of administration back in March 2019. That was a business based in Scotland. It was a Scotland top 500 company. It turned over 65 million, about 18 months or so before it went into administration. So we acquired that business in the March. It was a pretty high profile administration in Scotland that had 440 employees, national company up here, construction business. So it went into administration. We acquired it in March from KPMG, and we started rebuilding that business. We'd done the next acquisition. We'd started the process pretty much straight away on looking at other businesses. So as soon as we acquired McGill, we started on the hunt, if you like, for other similar type businesses throughout Scotland to start with, but we're now all over the UK looking at businesses. So we've done our next acquisition it concluded in December last year, just before Christmas. That business turned over 5 million, similar type business to McGill. That was not a distressed business. It was a well-run, well-operated business, small in comparison to what we're looking at now. 60, 70 employees, turns over 5 million, makes around about 750,000 EBITDA. So it was a good business, and we managed to we get that deal done on the back just before Christmas last year. We started the process mid 2019 on looking at various other businesses, and of course COVID hit us in March, which delayed the next acquisition, which has been our largest acquisition to date. And that was a business based in Glasgow, turns over 30 million. So we are now operate in terms of EBITDA, does around just over 4 million of an EBITDA on a 30 million turnover. So we've from starting with a distressed business, coming up for 2 years, it will be in March. In terms of the companies that we have in the group that we have now, and the pipeline, which many of the people have been speaking about today, our pipeline's huge and has really, really taken a boost since COVID. And so we're up. We've done over 50 million we'll do this year, and that includes the COVID lockdown period. We have just under 500 staff, and we're looking for to at least double that this year. And I think if things hadn't slowed down and been a bit of a roller coaster this year, we would have been well ahead of the game, if you like, in terms of our plans. So
Graham, just for clarity, just so everyone's really clear, you've done 50 million of revenue this year from a combination of several businesses.
Yeah.
And how many of those businesses did you start from scratch?
Well, we didn't start any from scratch. That's not what we do. We acquire businesses. We're very clear on that. We're a business buying business. We buy revenue. We acquire revenue. And so the McGill business was distressed and stopped trading. This was the first company. And we weren't in the market for distressed businesses. We're not. We're in the market for acquiring well-run, well-operating businesses where we see value and we can get a deal done. So that one, you can say it was a new start, but it wasn't really. There was 65 million up in the air, and we wanted to see what we could catch. And we've probably caught about 5 million quickly, and what we've seen is a kind of a slow burner. But now we're as things have progressed and we've re-established the company, we're getting on back on a number of the government contracts and frameworks that we want to be back on. So the business did have a good name in the market, but it stopped trading. So we've had to put a bit of effort into that one, whereby the other ones run themselves. They've got a good second-tier management team when we've acquired them.
And I think really my question was, I knew the answer when I asked it, because you've achieved 50 million of sales in 2020 from businesses that you've never started. You didn't go through years of growing pains trying to figure out how to do the marketing, trying to figure out what color the website should be, and all of those things. You've done it all through acquisition. And I'm okay with you sort of not giving us too much detail on this in this answer, and I understand why. But did you have to dig deep into your savings to make those acquisitions?
No, we didn't at all. And we've talked previously, and I've explained the structure on how we do it. We're always the way that it's been structured. The guys have said it that I've spoken earlier, where you're able, and yourself also, where the way that you structure the deal, if there's cash in those businesses that can pay the initial consideration, the way you structure the deals with delayed consideration over a period of time, whereby effectively the businesses, for all intent and purposes, by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, and therefore your upside is huge, because you aren't going to be limited by how much money you've got in the bank. You're not going to be limited by how much someone's going to lend you. It's just understanding how these deal structures work and then having the confidence to implement them.
Yeah.
And what would you say holds most new business buyers back? What from what you've observed, what do you think gets in people's ways?
They spreadsheet it to death. That's the problem. They think about it too much. There's too many clever folk out there. I'm quite fortunate. I'm not one of those people. They think about it, spreadsheet it. They've got to get it, dot every I, cross every T, and it breeds paralysis. You have to move. We're going through one of the greatest economic times ever in all of our lives at this moment in time. The COVID, which is so bad for so many folk, is so great if it would depend on what side of the fence you're on. Yes. So the opportunities, I don't think we'll ever see a greater time for acquiring businesses using the methods that you talk about, and making some real traction in a short space of time. So it's overthinking it, all of that stuff. I think that's the paralysis. I mean, a lot of it's fear. You really have to, you've got to take action. And it's an old cliche, but it's just true. You have to get out there and do that.
Yeah, but it's like that with everything, isn't it? People talk themselves out of things that were a good idea, and then look back and regret they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I think we're entering a golden era for the savvy business buyer, where if you don't do something about it now, you might look back on it and wish you had.
Yeah. I think for us, we had plans. We had ambitious plans. We thought of 300 million of turnover within 3 to 5 years. But what happened is we went into lockdown. Then all of a sudden, we were looking at 1.7 billion worth of potential deals. The pipeline of businesses coming through that were talking to us, we had to increase our our ambition. You know, we weren't being ambitious enough based on the market and the current conditions out there. It is, the opportunities are huge. And for us, you know, it's filtering through the ones that fit our criteria and don't. And, you know, they do take longer when, you know, the bigger the company, there's more due diligence required, as you know. And but the opportunities are just, they're everywhere at the moment. And I think we're well placed to take advantage of that. But that comes from doing deals and analysing deals and looking at deals and, like you say, sending letters and being active. And we are just, while people are chilling and taking breaks, we're not doing that. You know, we are at it, taking advantage of the
I say to people, look, you know, you're on the fast track. We're doing this for 5 days. You've got an incredible momentum. The timing's right. The timing couldn't be any better.
Yeah.
You know, you've got worldwide economic timing that's perfect. You've got the beginning of the year, which is even more perfect. There is nothing to stop you apart from yourself. And if you stop yourself, well, then you've only got yourself to blame, haven't you? I mean, it's something that we can all do if you've got the knowledge and you've got the confidence.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a great way to get that knowledge and get that confidence. So what does next year hold for you then? I think you've given us a pretty good sense of it, but I bet you've got some big plans.
We have, you know, we have our meeting tomorrow, in between Christmas and New Year. Every year we do our personal goals. It starts with my wife and I. We do our personal goals, then that starts first, then it relates on to the businesses. So we've got some personal stuff. You know, we're in order to grow our business, we need to grow as people. And so we've been doing that review of last year and where we can, well, what do we learn and what can we do better? Next year for us is a really exciting year. It has been an interesting one because we've been so close on many and just didn't manage to get them across the line before Christmas there. So there's a few sort of just that, you know, we are hoping to conclude the first quarter, and that sets us on a good base to hit the ground running for next year. So if we can do, you know, we need to do more next year than we've got now currently. And we're very confident what we've got in the pipeline. And, you know, most of our businesses now are down south, all over, southeast, southwest, northwest are the first three that we have ready for the first quarter. So, you know, we're busy. You know, we're a lean company, a small business, a small group, a small board structure, but we have good external advisors. And that's key for us, and that they keep on. Again, you know, we need to keep involved with these guys. Yeah.
And I've been asked a question here. Teddy, who's joined the fast track, actually has asked a question. He's actually asked 4 questions. So I'll narrow it down to one. He says, Graham, do you put new management in each company you buy, or do you have one operational team for all of the businesses that you buy?
Well, clearly the McGill business, which was a distressed company, we had to put in brand new management in there. We didn't take on any of the previous board that crashed the ship, if you like. We brought in new management for those. The other 2 businesses that we've acquired, we've retained the existing management. They're on 2-year contracts, and I like that. Because they're well-run businesses, I want them to stay involved when they hand over the reins to me, that they're still vested in it somewhat and responsible for what they've told me pre us going in there. So I like that. So there's a handover period, but underneath that, there's a good second-tier management team that we've identified and are happy with prior to us acquiring the businesses. So each one's different, but we are okay both ways, really. But my preference is that the owner selling, particularly if it's a delayed consideration, there's still a motivation from them to make sure that the handover goes as smooth as possible for a period of time.
Yeah, and there's always a debate, isn't it? Do you keep the existing management, or do you swap out the management? And it's a kind of it all depends answer. There isn't necessarily one straight answer, is there? It just depends on the circumstances.
Yes.
But you're right. If that management have crashed a ship, you want to get them out as quickly as possible. That's probably the fastest cost saving and the best move you could ever make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Graham, thank you very much. We might well be coming back to you with some more questions in a minute. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic 2021.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathan.
Great, thank you. So questions, please. Now is the time for you to ask questions of our panel or myself, of course. So you found the Q&A box. I think lots of you have. I'm just looking at questions here. Right. This one I think is a question for me. Tendai says, what's your opinion on using email marketing to reach out to business owners? That's what I use for my marketing agency, and it works very well. Well, that's fantastic. We don't do that because we're sending a private and confidential message to the owner, and we want to have a private and confidential interaction with that owner. So what I'm going to do, let's see if I can do this. Again, this is where you watch me struggle with the technology. If all of our panelists could put their cameras on, please. And I am going to try to do that. And thank you, Andy. And I'll just wait for the others to come back to their laptop. Right, let's see how we do this with some Q&A. Right. Muti says, is 5 days training enough to make big decisions? I'm not sure which big decisions you're talking about there. Well, it's certainly enough to make the decision whether it's the right business to buy or not. If that is I suppose that is a big decision, isn't it? That's a pretty critical first decision. So the answer is yes. Darren says, for the fast track program, do you go through the process of finding businesses to target to approach by? Yeah, absolutely. We do all that on Monday. That was massive part of Monday. Okay, so let me just ask this question to the panel. Rishi says, not our chancellor, I imagine, says, are insolvent companies a good place to look for deals, or are the companies too far gone by then? So who'd like to take that? Graham, you have quite an experience of insolvent companies. Would you just unmute yourself and answer that for Rishi, please?
Yeah, my preference is not to buy insolvent companies because it is far more difficult from a management and time point of view, and resource. You always underestimate the time and the resource that's required in these situations, but there can be some cracking deals. I think we are more amenable now that we have an infrastructure to acquiring distressed businesses because we can plug them into something that's already existing and it's there. So they're it should be easier integrated. I mean, there's some fantastic deals at the moment. Most of the businesses that contact us at the moment, as you can imagine, are distressed in one way, shape, or form. So it's very difficult not to get swayed into it. But I would just say, be careful, because it's sometimes, if you like, restarting the businesses is hard, and we've got first-hand experience of that. It does take longer and cost more than what you imagine.
But would you say that the upside could be absolutely amazing?
Huge. I mean, you can have the upside, you get it right, you catch it right, as we have done with McGill. The upside could be phenomenal. So there's some cracking deals, and you can buy them for £1. So you can pick them up if you have the wherewithal, the knowledge to be able to turn these things around. If it's your cup of tea type of thing, then the upsides can be phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's great, Graham. Thank you very much. Okay, question for anyone who'd like to take it from Fiona. I think, Fiona, you're talking about property, but I also think you're talking about business. Fiona says, do your speakers buy businesses to hold or refurb? I don't think we typically would say refurb a business and sell on. I mean, who's got plans to sell and exit out of our panel? Just unmute yourself. Yeah, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the plan has always been to get enough businesses into the group so we've got a turnover of 20 million and then sell that as a package. So keep buying them in until we get to that turnover, whether that's 10 businesses, 15 businesses or whatever. As soon as we hit that mark, then we go for the sell of the group, because obviously a group has much more structure and a better value than individual businesses.
Yeah. Okay. That's great answer, Andy. Theo says, hi, Jonathan, I've signed up to your fast track training. Please do forward my email to the, right. So someone earlier on said that they were a student, and I said, look, if you haven't got the money, please don't do this. Don't stretch yourself. And Theo, and actually, I think, Theo, you might be the second person who's offered that student their second place free of charge. So someone's getting a late Christmas present, but an early New Year present. Thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. Here's a question for everyone. Etienne says, I have a question regarding the sector and choosing the one that fits. The sector I'm in is very niche and not a lot of opportunities. I know it's a very basic question. I don't think it is a basic question. I think choosing the sector is important. So who's got a comment, please, about choosing the sector to buy in?
Yeah, I'll give a comment there. I think it has to be something that you like and something that you're naturally good at, and also the sector that the person's in at the minute is quite niche, but there'll be other relevant sectors or stuff overlapping. So yeah, but it has to be something that you like and that you're good at.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray. That's good. And Darren, I think you wanted to comment as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna balance that with. I think a year ago, I don't think I ever would have said I'd be out buying ladies' hair salons. It's not a sector that I know even now particularly well. So I think if it's your first deal or two, then my advice would certainly be do something and something you're comfortable with, because I think it will strengthen the conversations you have with the sellers. But as you get more comfortable with the process, then spread your wings a bit and look for sectors where you can add some value and where the margins are good and those kind of things.
Yeah, good comment. Neil Smith says, what have you done to add real value to businesses once it's been purchased? So just generally speaking, for any of you to take this question, how would you add value to a business that you've bought?
I mean, what we did was we used all the businesses and put them all into one big office to save on all the utilities and stuff like that. So we cut down the overheads really quickly. And obviously synchronized all things like accountancy, end of year, all that sort of stuff is all now in one place. So the overheads for each business has gone right down, to be honest. And obviously we're not paying, salaries to people who are no longer with us because they've sold it.
So your value add is to immediately strip out cost, which creates profit without having to find new customers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Add a really good amount of percentage onto each business by lowering the cost, because you're doing everything on a slightly bigger scale. And then the second part is, internally, things like management of projects and all those bits of software and stuff the businesses use. Just again, bringing it all together. We don't need 5 admins, we don't need 5 project managers, etc. So just streamlined it all that way. We haven't made anything redundant. We just moved people into different things.
Yeah. So you've optimized the staffing.
100%. Yeah.
No, great, Andy. Thank you. Here's a question for Ray, because I think you've got quite a bit of current experience in this, Ray. He says, John Evans says, in the present economic climate, is there still asset finance companies prepared to lend for the purchase of a business?
As Jonathan will know on my previous comments and podcasts and that, it's more invoice finance that I've used in the past. It is more difficult to get asset finance at the minute, but a lot of it actually is as well. It depends on the business. So going back to what I said earlier to Jonathan, with the Heathrow business, because it's been trading 42 years, I've been buying assets and I've been getting finance on that. So in answer to your question, yes.
Okay, and obviously, Darren and Andy, in your sectors, there aren't really any assets to finance. What about you, Graham? How do you use asset finance?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with Ray there. I think certainly the invoice discounting should be a key tool in your business acquisition, toolbox, if you like, for when you're acquiring them. A number of the banks or these particular ID facility providers, invoice discounting facility funders are keen, and there is an appetite for good quality invoices and customer bases to be funded at the moment. So for us, that's definitely a key area for us when we're looking at the profile of the businesses potentially that we're looking to acquire.
So you actually look for businesses that have that have the ability. You have the ability to raise funds against.
Straight away, absolutely. And in this market, I mean, crikey, you would be surprised at how many smaller businesses haven't applied for the bounce back loan schemes, their R&D tax credits, their CBILS loan schemes, the invoice down scheme. It's incredible, the amount of businesses that we've looked at that they have not applied for any of the government funding, available funding for those particular companies. So you can go and buy a business and immediately, have access potentially to government funding, ID facilities, R&D tax credits. There's so many ways, but it's again, depends where you're coming from. If you think you have to go to the bank to borrow money to buy that business, there's the blockage right there.
And thank you for that, Graham. Niall says, is the panel preference to look for asset or share purchase? Is there any preference or any learnings from one or the other, anyone?
I did have a learning. We talked about the business which went a bit south, which I bought. And the penny dropped actually when I helped you with that fast track. I suddenly, I was listening to the fast track, I went, I should have bought the assets, not the shares of that business. Yeah. So I think you've just got to be open to each. If the business is good, to me, I think either or. I don't, it doesn't really matter. It depends on the business itself, isn't it? Each one's slightly unique. But, that was my learning curve from the last fast track. I just sat there and went, I should have bought the assets.
It just goes to show, Andy, even though, you've bought businesses, you know exactly what you're doing now. Yeah. There's sometimes that little light bulb moment. You think, oh, I missed that. That's what I should have done there. Yeah.
That business will still be going now if I'd have bought the assets, I can tell you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. We cover this on the fast track on the as you know, on the Wednesday or the Thursday in quite some detail. Ray, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it is very, very dependent on the sector and the type of deal. So in the different acquisitions that I've done and been involved with and seen, sometimes if you do an assets and goodwill, you won't get to take all of the business, as in the good bits that you actually want. You'll actually lose some of it. Whereas if you do a share purchase, you will get everything, good and bad. But sometimes with assets and goodwill, it's an agreement and you get whatever you think you're getting, but you mightn't get to maintain everything. That's my experience anyway. It is quicker and simpler, but sometimes you can lose part of that original business.
Yeah, I mean, we've bought mostly assets. If I look at the last sort of 10 deals, I think it's eight asset purchases, 2 share purchases, which is that ratio remains pretty constant. We sometimes use pre-pack administrations, so we buy and we close it down and we buy the assets from ourselves. That's not everyone's cup of tea, and I wouldn't suggest people go around doing that without knowing what they're doing. But again, it comes down to knowing what you're doing. The more you know, the more tools are available for you. Peter Hollis, hi Peter, says, can you perform zero money down deals on an asset purchase? I would have thought it's only possible on share purchases. Who'd like to take that?
A lot of it I find is down to the buyer's expectation, the seller's expectations and what they want. And it's almost a case of once you know that, you can work backwards off it.
Yeah, I mean, from my own perspective, I just said 8 out of 10 of our purchases are asset purchases, but none of those, if we're calling a no money down deal one that does not require, I mean, it depends on the way you interpret it, but doesn't require any of your own money, then yeah, absolutely they can. No money down there's none of your own money down. It can be someone else's money, whether it's from invoice discounting or from asset finance or from vendor finance. So yeah, the answer is yes, it can, Peter, and I think you're the Peter that I know as well. So that's I know you're doing very well. That's great. So that's Chaplin says, is there a software or program to help evaluate the company or companies that you are interested in? So Darren, would you like to take that, because you're looking at a lot of businesses at any one time? Do you use software, or what's your business?
I'm sure there is something somewhere, but no. I mean, I've used spreadsheets in the past. I mean, when you're buying, I mean, I've used spreadsheets to kind of look at the financial profile of larger businesses. So typically, the IT companies we bought were, knocking in the region of £1 million. So we would scrutinise the numbers a lot more closely than a £250,000 hair salon, which I can do almost on a notepad. I mean, the one thing I would say is the more sets of accounts you end up looking at, the quicker you'll be able to kind of work out and analyse whether that deal is going to work for you and work for the seller. But as software goes, no, I certainly don't use any.
I'm getting a few questions here that I just want to answer. Just one that's recurred several times. It's about the one-to-one with me. I said that if you book and register for the fast track before I think it was Ray finishes speaking, and someone's just said Ray's still speaking. so does it count now? Well, that's not quite the spirit of what I was saying. But if you want to join and you want the one-to-one with me, then you need to go and do it now. I'll leave that open until I need to check whether my watch is on UK time or Dubai time. Let me just say until quarter to 3, I think. Is that right? So you've got basically 20 minutes if you want to do that. Okay. So if you want to do that, do it in the next 20 minutes.
Jonathan.
Sorry, say that again, Andy.
3:45, Jonathan.
Oh, is it? Sorry, yeah, quarter to 4. Yeah, quarter to 4. A very good question here from Neil Smith. It's a big question. How do you come up with the value of a business? Says Neil.
Well, the first thing you do is ask the seller what they think it's worth, don't you? And that's the starting point. You never give them the value first. And then I'm accountant. To me, the accountant does it. I don't do it. The accountant will come back and he'll say, with what I know about that business, this is what I would put the valuation in. And my accountant says, so I would go in this region, and he comes up with a figure under that valuation, he says. But the first thing is ask them, isn't it? Because they might come back and say...
Yeah. And just for everyone's benefit, so they see where Andy's coming from, is that if you go first on making an offer, which of course brokers like you to do, you could be offering double what they had in their mind. They might have sold it to you for half the number that comes out of your mouth. So let them speak first. And if you know what the business is worth to you, if they say a number that's less than what it's worth to you, you've got yourself a bargain. You haven't even negotiated yet. If they say a number that's higher than what it's worth to you, you know how much you need to get it down by. So letting them go first on price is a great way of establishing value. But then you've got to know what the business is worth to you as well. That's really important. Anyone else want to pick up on that, Darren?
Yeah, I think just following on from your point, really, Jonathan. I mean, we always get the seller to give you their number first. I mean, that's key. I mean, we bought a number of businesses. I'll give you 2 examples. One of them was trading at 40-odd thousand a year of profit, and I asked the seller what he wants to sell it for, and he said 30,000, no ifs, no buts, which is a multiple of less than 1. So I'll always buy businesses at that value. Another example, we bought a business we bought a business in Bournemouth, and when I asked the same question to the guy, he said, look, I just want to mean, he owned a hair salon. It was trading at just under 300,000 a turnover. Very healthy business, very, very profitable. But this guy had a passion to be a landscape gardener. And he said, look, I just want something for the stock. So we ended up giving him $4,000. And I mean, this was 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and at 10 o'clock on the Monday morning, we gave him $4,000 and bought the business from him. But one thing I would say about valuing a business is it gets more complicated as you go into the enterprise level market. But certainly in small businesses, it's often seen as a dark art. It's whatever it's worth to you, and whatever, however quickly you want to get your money back. So it's not particularly complicated.
Yeah, cool. Okay, good. That's two very good answers there. Okay, I'm just scrolling through. We've got an awful lot of open questions there. Yeah, Michael Petris, if you contact the office, Maria can help you with that. Luke says, how do you pay the team that you hire? So this is your accountant, mostly your accountant or your lawyer. How do you pay them? And I think he probably means, where does the money come from? Who'd like to take that one?
I mean, for us, the first one we bought, the lawyer we did pay, but then we recharged that back from the business. But the accountancy was all latter. And the other ones, yeah, the other ones have all been, funds from the business. I mean, I think it's all about the relationship with the lawyer and the accountant you have, or whatever. So, but all the deal teams have been paid for by the business we've bought.
So not out of your own pocket, Andy,
or out of any of the existing businesses. No, and like I said, the only one we had to do money out of an existing business was to clear an overdraft on acquisition, which then we took back within a week. But yeah, it's all been done. Yeah, you say to them, send us an invoice and it's 30 days and send it to this company name. And, and once you've done a couple with the same people, there's a lot more leeway for discussion about that, isn't there? So the first,
yeah, exactly. It's building a relationship, isn't it? And then if you're a complete unknown, then you'll probably find it more difficult to do that, which is why going through personal recommendation is probably a good idea.
And I love what you said, Darren, earlier, with the accountant, do all that due diligence stuff and look at the books for free, because you're going to get them onto your books. I took a note of that one. Thanks for that.
So Patrick says, how do you ensure that when the owner leaves, the customers or employees won't leave as well? So basically the seller leaves and the whole business follows him, the customers and the employees. How do you make sure that doesn't happen? Or is Patrick concerned about something that he needn't be concerned about? Who'd like to take that?
I can answer that one. It's in the contract, isn't it? For the employer, you have a non-compete in the contract on purchase, so they can't take customers and they can't take employees, and they literally can't do anything based on that business for a certain amount of time. You can't stop employees leaving, but if they were going to leave, then they're probably not people you want to keep in the business anyway. But from a business owner's point of view, you have all the non-competes in the contract. I mean, it's a legal document. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things. People worry about it when they haven't done it before, but staff leaving is just natural attrition. Customers come and go all the time. They're not customers for life, are they? So it's just kind of just something that you live with, and it's never as dramatic as people's worst nightmares. They lay awake at 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about these things. Very rarely happen anyway.
But if you find someone who wants to sell their business and wants to leave and go to pastures new, the last thing they want to do is then drag all their customers and staff with them, because why would they have gone through all this hassle? Why would they have gone through it to start?
It's probably worth mentioning as well. in some deals where, I mean, certainly larger deals where you're paying, most of the consideration over a period of time, you can attach certain conditions to that. So we did a deal last year. It was an IT business, and we actually attached a condition to part of their deferred payment, which said you can't have, obviously you can't run away and steal all the customers, but we can't have X percentage of staff walk out the door. And so the owner voluntarily stayed on, I think it's for a month or so, maybe 3 weeks. And they really kind of encouraged the staff to buy into the change, and they really got on our side with it. Because the net, the alternative for them is they would get less money from us.
Yeah, so they're not going to sabotage the business for that. Yeah, it's in their own self-interest not to, isn't it? Yeah, you just sometimes have owners who do some crazy things. Like one we bought in Liverpool a few months ago. The woman wrote on the Facebook page that she'd closed the business. I said, "What do you mean you closed the business? You sold the business." And she was telling people she'd closed the business. And it's like, oh my goodness. So there's no accounting for some rather odd behavior, but that's just part of business, isn't it? You never know exactly what's around the corner, but it's how you deal with it that counts. Niall says, has there been any sectors or ventures materialized from purchases not envisaged? So basically, has there been a side effect of a business that you bought that turned out to be rather good? I'm not sure if that's quite a specific question. If the answer is no, you can't think of anything. I can,
I go ahead with that. The Heathrow haulage business, there was one area that I hadn't fully exploited, and I think it was one of the other guys mentioned about e-commerce earlier. We're doing a small amount of fulfillment, and I would like to get more into it, but it's not massive at the minute. Initially, when I bought the business, I didn't even know that was part of it, but it's just kind of materialized, and with the online space, everybody's exploiting that at the minute. So that'd be an additional venture there, you could say.
I mean, we had one business where they had a product they built internally, and I didn't know anything about it, and an online product, and it was out there ready to sell as like a monthly fee, £5 per user per month type product, and I didn't know anything about it. I bought the business, and someone mentioned this thing a couple of times. I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "You own it." And we've just done some work on it and made it look a bit prettier, and we're going to relaunch it again in the Q1 next year. But yeah, that was a nice little bonus to have this lovely sort of bit of online project management software, which was completely owned by us, and we never knew about it. So yeah, it was quite decent.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Paul says, Graham, what did you do before you started acquiring businesses, and were you scared? I don't think you don't strike me as someone who's easily intimidated.
No, what I can tell before we start buying our businesses, we were in the property business, residential property business, and we bought our first property in March 2008, right at the height of the financial crash. And the first property I bought, which is an hour north of here, over these hills out the back, up in just outside Aberdeen. And I was terrified, absolutely petrified beyond belief. And it was the first buy-to-let property we done. And it was back in the good old days of Mortgage Express, and you were able to do same-day remortgaging stuff. Yeah. And we managed, and it was a great deal. We were able to get money out quickly and roll that into the next deal, So we've not looked back since then. But so property business, we are now one of the largest private residential landlords in Scotland. We have over 300 units on our property side. But the business buying side is way more exciting, way more potentially lucrative, and where I say I just love it more than the property side. Funnily enough, just listening to the guys there on when you've bought businesses. When we bought the Alliance business, we didn't know. It didn't even come out in the due diligence. Funnily enough, It came with a loads of, I think we had 3 or 4 plots of land with planning permission for houses on it. Nobody knew. So they were nice little bonuses that we've got. We've got sort of up our sleeve. I drove past it with my son a few weeks ago, and I said to him, "We own that." So, how did you own that? So I didn't know we owned it. It was just part of a deal that we done, and so that was an interesting one.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Nice one. That's really good. Etienne says, you all seem to have had a business to leverage off to buy a business. What if you don't have any business background?
Well,
how do you have credibility?
You need to start somewhere. We didn't have any, when we bought our first property, we didn't have any properties. When we bought our first business, we created some, but we didn't do anything of the scale that we're buying now. We bought a distressed business, a small business at 5 million, if you like, then woof, we ate the elephant at 30 million. So it's in the mind, you need to start somewhere, and the next deal is going to be even bigger. So we're always chasing bigger as you're growing, as we're growing anyway. So that's never ever deterred us. It's easier when you can leverage. There is no doubt about that. Once you get in and you have a few under your belt, you just are more confident. You understand it better. So once you get the wheel moving, the difficult bit's getting the starting the wheel moving. But once you get going, you're absolutely right. Once you can leverage, the whole process it makes it easier and quicker.
Yeah. So the first one is the hardest. And once you've got the first one, you can leverage that into the next one. I mean, you found that, Darren, didn't you, with the hairdressing salons? Not that the first one, I don't think was necessarily difficult for you, but that gave you the springboard for number 2, for number 3, and so forth.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, what I did, yes, have the IT group sat here, but the salon businesses are and have been all completely independent of that. So in essence, whilst I've bought businesses, I've had businesses, the first salon was entirely cash free. The second one was deferred. So you just, it's a snowball. You do one, you do another, and as soon as you get 2 or 3 going, the thing just balloons. But in essence, the business I already had was owned by 2 other people alongside me, was completely disconnected from the salon group, what is now a group. That was all done from £0 upwards.
I wouldn't start from scratch now. If I could go back, I wouldn't sit there just me going, I'm going to start a digital agency, and then within 6 months there's 2 of us, and 2 years there's 3 of us, and the slog of it. If anyone said to me I was going to do that now, I'd just call them mental, to be honest. I'd say that let's just get one what already exists, and that whole hit the ground running thing. The learning curve's easier, I think. You're hitting something where there's people in the business who can do it and run it. So you don't have to do all that as well. All you have to do is find it. So I would strongly, unless you've got an idea for something completely unique which doesn't exist in the world, I would say always start from a running business rather than just you on your own trying to grow something. That was the hindsight part.
So Wendy says, another great session. I did the fast track in December and loved it. My letters are ready to go out. Fantastic, Wendy. You need to get those out. Monday, the 4th of January. We've got just over 13,000 going out that day. So, whatever you're doing, 250, 500,000, just get them out the door. Because that will just create the buzz and the activity and the people contacting you, create all your deal flow. So all of you who've joined the fast track, you have my deal sourcing letter. I do ask you to remember to put your name at the bottom rather than leave my name on. Someone did that once, and alter anything in it that just makes it relevant to your market. And you will start seeing these results as send out 250 letters. You might get 3 phone calls, 4 phone calls, 5 phone calls, but it's all experience. And on the fast track, I'll teach you exactly what to say, exactly what to do, how to handle it, how to negotiate the deal. And I encourage everyone on the fast track to get everything ready to go so that you could buy a business in the next 6 months. So in the first 6 months of next year, buy a business. And then other people go and buy 2 businesses, 3 businesses. And then Darren makes us look like we're all being very lazy by buying 21. So it's really a matter of perspective and what it is that you want to achieve. So let me just find a question that I can ask to everyone here. There are so many that I know that we haven't answered. I'm so sorry. I've got 83 open questions. We'd be here for another 3 or 4 hours if we went through every single one of them. So Graham says, is there a difference between buying sole traders or limited companies? That's just a technical question. Anyone like to pick up on that one?
We took over 2 sole traders. We bought limited companies first, and then just through word of mouth and stuff, people we knew and stuff who were sole traders, we've amalgamated them into the business for no money. They basically just said, we'll bring in your clients and have a more stable job because now we're part of a group. But a sole trader, by definition, you can't take on a sole trader and then go and have anything left. So you have to have something to me, I think you have to have something to bring it into. So I wouldn't say it's an option for a first thing unless you've already got a business.
Yeah, you might be buying for their contracts. That's really what you're doing, isn't it?
Then you've got a lot of work to do, haven't you?
Yeah. Anyone else like to, Darren, I guess some of yours are, some of the people who contact you must be very small businesses. I know that they're of no interest to you.
Yeah, no, they're not at the moment. I mean, sole trader versus limited, it's just a different legal structure. I mean, sole trader, they are traditionally smaller companies. All of the liabilities in those businesses lie directly with the owner. A limited company, all of the liability in that is contained within the business. So it's really, I mean, it's just considering that really when you're looking at the deal structure. If there's liability in the business and you just want to buy the assets, that liability will fall down to the owner. If you want to do a share sale of a limited company and there's liability, that will transfer to you with the sale. So it's deal per deal really, but certainly as it stands at the moment, yeah, we're not looking at sole traders, we're looking at limited companies, but that will probably change going into next year.
Yeah, great. In terms of time, I realize you've all given up your afternoons today. So I'd like to say thank you, Ray. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Darren. Again, if this was a live event, there would be I'm sure there would be a standing ovation. Thank you very much indeed for your input today. I can tell from the amount of interaction, it's been greatly received. So thank you very much. I'll let you log off now, guys, and I will see you in the new year. And have a great New Year's Eve, I hope. Well, have a great new year. Have a great 2021.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jonathan.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the last 15 minutes of today's event. So now I'll take any final questions that you've got about the Fast Track program. Any questions that you've got, this is your last 15 minutes to join. You've just heard from people who've been on the program. You've heard what they say about it. You've heard what they've done since. Any questions that you've got about the Fast Track program, now is the time to ask those questions. You can see on your screen the URL. I'm assured that the web page is working perfectly now. And if you go to the dealmakersacademy.com/fast, you can register. I'm going to extend the one-to-one Zoom with me to anyone and everyone who books before the 4, I believe I forgot my times right. Yeah, the 4 p.m. cutoff. So any questions you've got, now's the time to ask me. If you've been sitting on the fence, now's the time to go and book. In case there's any payment plans, can't do any payment plans on that amount. The closest I would suggest is if you pay with a credit card rather than a debit card, then you can manage how you pay back the credit that the credit card company gives you. Stimulating, enlightening, says Bob. Joyce says, thank you very much. Oh, I recognize your name, Joyce. Good to have you here. Travis says, if I wanted to invite another person who this would help, are you doing another webinar? This is the only one that I've got booked. So if you've got any questions about the program, now is the time to ask. I will do my best to answer as many of them as possible. I've got so many on the screen here. I'm not sure if I can answer every single or one of them. Fiona says, if we have queries arising from the program sessions, do we just email? Just ask them on the program, Fiona. So we're going to meet every single day. So just ask them as you go along. MG says, would this work in the US as well? Yes, we've got many clients now, a growing number of clients in the United States. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have people in Eastern Europe, in South America, in Canada, in New Zealand, and Australia. It makes no difference where you are. Eleanor says, thank you. It was very inspirational, well put together. Happy New Year. Great, Eleanor. You've been on the fast track, so you speak from experience. Thank you very much, Eleanor. Paul says, your stamp price goes up before the 1st of January. Yes, it does indeed. Yep, Fiona. Fiona says, any questions that occur to me afterwards? Yep, I think I've already said, let me just go to my frequently asked questions. There you go. You'll see it on there, Fiona. You can ask me anything anytime after the course. Yeah, fair usage, obviously. Yeah, you probably don't want to be phoning me every day, but you get the point. Yes, absolutely, no problem at all. Tabitha, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that for you. PB's iPad says, thanks, Jonathan. Signed up this time round. Great, PB. Looking forward to getting to know you. Shri, yes, by email. Yes, that's absolutely fine. People do that all the time. John says, great session, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Shantana says, Shantanu, are you on the fast track, Shantanu? Then I'll give you the right answer to that. Do we need to sign up today? Says Li Ming. Yes, you do, Li Ming. Up till you've got 15 minutes remaining if you're going to join us. No problem, Patrick. Happy to be of help. Clayton says, oh, that was a good one. Hang on. Let me find that. Just pop down my screen. Clayton says, I've done other, Clayton, you're from the United States, I think. You've done other acquisitions training. I like your methods the best. Now that I'm signed up, can I have access to previous recordings? Well, you don't need those because you're going to get a recording of the program that you're on. That's always a lot better, the one that you're on. Maria's going to look after you with that. I'll see what we can do there, Teddy. Craig says, thank you all. No problem at all. Patrick, you just sent me a question mark, but I don't know. Oh, there's a question mark for... Patrick says, what is your motivation behind sharing your knowledge? I'm a bit of frustrated performer. I think that's probably what it is. I kind of like standing on stage. And to be fair, Patrick, yeah, I do get paid for it. I probably wouldn't do this so much if no one paid me, but people do pay me, and I'm quite happy to be paid, like most people, I think. Eleanor, yeah, but you've only just been on it, I think, wasn't it? Just a few weeks ago. Sorry, Shantanu, I'm not sure what, if you've already spoken to Maria, I won't get involved with that. Fiona says, I've signed up now, looking forward to it, Fiona. Fiona, it's a good decision. We're going to spend a week together. If you've been following me for a couple of years, you're going to get huge amounts of value from this. Connor says, hi, Jonathan, some info on setting up group structure. Currently have a hire business. Yeah, what information, Connor? John says, is it okay to mention to the prospective buyer, I think you mean prospective seller, that you want to introduce invoice finance? It's really none of their business. It makes no difference to them. Darren says, can you make recommendations on creating the deal maker? Yeah, we do that on Thursday. I don't think my current accountant would be suitable. Yeah, we do that on the Thursday of the fast track. I've answered that one there. I'm trying to answer everyone's questions, but I've got a lot here. Johnny says, I'm in your private client group, and I have a rather detailed question about my sector. Should I email them to Maria? Yeah, not to me, not here on the webinar, Johnny. Yeah, that's fine. David Gamble says, are the video sessions different from the ones I already have access to? I'm sorry, David, I don't know what you have access to. Ed says, can the contracts be adjusted to Dutch? I have lots of Dutch clients, actually, a surprisingly large number of Dutch clients. I guess every country has its own laws, and every contracts in other countries are going to be slightly different. So always run it past a Dutch lawyer. That's what I can say. Teddy says, how long after the fast track can we start approaching businesses? People do it actually during the fast track program, during the course of the week. So they actually get going immediately during the course of the week. David, that sounds like an admin question. Can you let the office pick you up on that? Teddy says, do we cover selling businesses? No, this is a business buying course. Really hard to cover selling a business on the same course. Craig says, brilliant. Again, Jonathan, thank you for your time and reminder. No problem at all. So if you want to join us, you've got 10 minutes before we close the registration page. No problem, Joyce. Happy to be of help. I think I've answered that one there. Chris says, thank you, Jonathan, and other speakers. It's great training. Happy New Year 2021. Thank you very much, Chris. Always good to hear from you. Chris was a client a few years back. Can I follow this course if I plan to buy a business in India? Yep, it makes no difference where in the world you are. So let me just bring this up on the screen. It makes no difference where in the world you are. You can be anywhere in the world and use these strategies. So let me just bring that up there. So you've got everything in front of you. There you go. It doesn't matter where in the world you are at all. Let me answer some more questions here. There's a lot. Might not be able to answer all of them, but I'll do my very best. Nick Passmore. Oh, Nick, I know Nick. Great course. I've got another 500 letters going out tomorrow. So Nick has been on the fast track course. I've got 500 more letters going out tomorrow for people to review, so when they get back to the office on Monday. Great timing, really good. Isaiah, no, by then, Isaiah, the offer will be gone. It's too late. If you want all the free stuff, the second place free, the session with me, then you've got to register before the session ends today in a 9-minute time. Anonymous attendee, I don't know who you are, but I do both. Bob says, thank you, Jonathan, stimulating and enlightening. Thank you very much. MG says, do you go over buying businesses in insolvency? Yep, that was on the Wednesday. I can see that everyone's forgotten what we're covering. Let's do it again. So on Monday, that's what we do. It's your strategy and finding the right businesses to buy. On the Tuesday, it's what to say on the phone and how to negotiate the deal. On Wednesday, we talk about 8 ways to buy a business without using your own cash, imaginative deal structures, your acquisition structure, assets or shares, getting the corporate structure right. On Thursday, we talk about the whole legal and accountancy process and also buying businesses out of administration. On Friday, what happens after you've bought the business? And then I'll go into detail about 8 of my recent acquisitions so you can see exactly how I did the deal. The usual price is $799 plus the VAT. We give you the 32 real-life deal negotiation videos, the set of contracts, checklists, and templates, 2 tickets to the 2021 Dealmakers Conference, all of the recordings of the Fast Track program, and that is the special price, $499 plus the VAT. Register now before 4 o'clock. You've got 8 minutes. We'll give you a second place free of charge. We'll give you the deal sourcing letter. So there's no excuses. You've got everything you need to buy a business as a result of this program. And there it is in summary, everything that you get. And let's just go through the FAQs. We do it 10 to 11, Monday to Friday, UK time. The sessions are recorded so you don't miss anything. You have the recordings forever. No one misses anything. You can ask me any question anytime after the course. You only get the free place and the free additional resources if you register now. And the special bonus is that, and we'll put that all the way up to 4 o'clock. So you've now got 7 minutes. So if you'd like to do this, you've got 7 minutes to make the most of it and to get the very best deal possible. Let me go to some more of these questions. Oh, so do we go over buying a business in insolvency? Yes, we do. Adrian, hi, Jonathan, great virtual conference and love the chosen speakers. Yeah, I know, but you got a lot of me on that one as well, Adrian. Don't worry, you don't. Brian Gregory says, very informative session. Best wishes, Brian. Thank you very much. Armando says, see you on the 24th of January. Yeah, all the dates and the times. If you go to the dealmakersacademy.com/fast, you'll see it all laid out in front of you, everything that you need there. Teddy says, do you have successful mentees? I hate that word, mentees. Clients from Eastern Europe making deals in the UK. God, that's quite specific. So a client who lives in Eastern Europe making deals in the UK. I don't know is the answer. Definitely Eastern Europe in Eastern Europe. And why are you in Eastern Europe, Teddy? I thought you were in United States. Don says, I've tried to sign up, but the system won't let me make a payment at the moment as I'm waiting for an overdraft approval. Would someone? Oh, no. I can't read the rest of that out. Luke says, I've signed up and nothing's come through an email yet. Well, Maria in the office is just getting through everyone. We've had a lot of people on the conference today. If you want the email address of the office, Luke says, I'm keen to get started. Yeah, hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. Email Maria, hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. Would you recommend to buy a business as a side hustle apart from doing a full-time job business? I would say every single one of my clients, every single person has a full-time job or a full-time business. None of them are sitting at home doing nothing. No one's sitting at home doing nothing. So everyone's doing something already. So let's see what we've got here. I'll try and answer some more of these questions. I'm just scrolling around, finding them here. Do you add yourself as a director in the new company you've acquired? Yes, typically you do. So I've answered that one. So if you've got any questions about the program, we've got 5 minutes remaining. 5 minutes remaining. Carl Cochran says, amazing, Jonathan. As you know, I'm on your 12-month course and did the fast track too. Been moving house from Yeovil to Weymouth, so massively distracted over the last 6 months. Now ready to go again. Brilliant. Reconnect with us, Carl, at the office. We'll be only too pleased to help you. How long does it take you to establish the team around you? Well, if you just do it by trial and error, it can take a long time. I think you're on the program, so I'll tell you exactly how I did it. Hi, Sri. I'm in the halfway process of buying a day nursery with £100,000 profits. The seller could not provide latest figures and the occupancy is down more than 50%. Shall I take the plunge still? Well, it depends how much you're buying it for. If you're buying it with none of your own money, you've got nothing to lose. You've got nothing to lose. Travis has just signed up. So excited. Great, Travis. Good to have you on board. Teddy says, I meant Eastern Europeans who are living in the UK. Oh, yes. We do have Eastern Europeans living in the UK. Yeah, absolutely we do. Yes. Your course is quite reasonable. Jude, I'm not sure what that question is. There's a question mark at the end of it. It seems more of a statement. I'm not sure what the question is. Adrian says, I forgot to ask, will you put up the recording of today's virtual conference online? I might do. I haven't decided yet. Ellen says, oh, I'm Eastern European living in the UK. Yes. So there you go. There you go, Teddy. Clayton says, Merry Christmas. Looking forward to getting started with your team. Fantastic. Looking forward to having you on board, Clayton. If you're going to join us, you've got 3 minutes remaining. If you want to get on board, you've got 3 minutes remaining. 3 minutes remaining, everyone. If you want to join us, 3 minutes remaining. You're in the last 3 minutes now. Anyone I can help with anything? Anyone I can help with anything about the fast track program? So if you want this session with me, you've got the last couple of minutes to go. There's a summary of everything you get, £500 plus the VAT. I've got to say, it's a good price. I don't think anyone can argue with that. It's an amazing price. How can I do it at such an amazing price? Because I have a lot of people on the program. That's why. It wouldn't work if it was one-to-one, quite clearly. I have a lot of people on the program, so it's economies of scale, and that's why it's such a low price. I used to run a program for £12,000, and so much of that content is in this £500 program because I can now do it with so many people on board at the same time. So any questions you've got to ask me now is your final chance. You've just got a few minutes left. No, we're not going to send out copies of today's slides. It's so much a question here. Oh, I've just answered that question because I have a lot of people on it. That's why. Economies of scale. What percentage, Li Ming Tang says, what percentage of your program graduates end up buying at least one business? Every single one of them who wants to, because there's nothing to hold you back apart from yourself. And I can't do anything about that. It's not track and trace. I'm not going to come around to your house and push you into physically make you do something. So everyone who wants to, there is nothing to hold you back. You have all the knowledge and all the information you could possibly want. Steve Madden, you've been on the fast track. Happy New Year to you, Jonathan. Looking forward to 2021. To everyone else, this course really is well worth it. Opens up your eyes to what is possible. I look forward to speaking to you on the next session. Great, Steve. Thank you very much. Have a good new year. I can't go back lots of slides because I would lose my place. So I don't know who you are. It's just coming up as user. But you've been on the fast track, so you've got all of this already. Okay, you've got everything that is on the fast track already. Anyone I can help with any questions? You've now got 2 minutes remaining. This is the last 120 seconds. If you want to register, now is the time to do it. If you're going to join us, now is the time to do it. You've got 2 minutes remaining. Any final questions that I can answer? Teddy says, thank you, Jonathan. Let's crack on 2021. Yes, that's exactly how I feel. Let's get going. Let's get buying some businesses. Anyone I can help? You've got 90 seconds remaining. 90 seconds. Can I help anyone with anything? 90 seconds to go. I think we're down to about 60 seconds now. Go to the dealmakersacademy.com/fast. Gareth, you don't book the one-to-one. We'll get in touch with you. Maria is in the office right now, and she's organizing all those sorts of things. But don't worry, you're not going to miss out, okay? You're not going to miss out. Any questions from anyone? Any help that I can give anyone? We're down to the last 60 seconds. If you'd like to join, let me say hello to some of the people. John Woodman, Raymond Dick, Amin Rahman, Travis Lawson, Mark Smink, Maneshi Solomon, John Richardson, hi John, Naveed Mungal, Fiona Black, hi Fiona, Yusuf, Mark Day, Daniel Trucan, Robert Parsons, I can see that you tried to get in, Satnam Singh, Emmanuel Adepi, David Hobbs, Craig Pangrazi Simpson, goodness me, it's a test sometimes of my pronunciation ability, Tim Reed, Mufasa Bupape, Robert Evans, David Chapman, Steve Cardwell, Andy Green, Owen Hager, Patrick Cattrall, Mark Adams. Welcome on board to all those people and all the others names I haven't read out. We're in the last 30 seconds now. Travis says, how do we answer the files, or will they be emailed through? Answer the files. Sorry, Travis, I don't know what answer the files means. Gareth says, have a wicked new year. That was awesome. See you soon. Great, Gareth. But Eleanor, you're already on the program. You're already on the program, Eleanor. You're already on it. You only came on it a couple of weeks ago. Look forward to meeting you on the 20th. Thank you for this webinar, Jonathan. No problem at all. Anyone else I can help with anything? We're in the last 15 seconds. You know what? Let's call it a day. I've been talking for 3 hours now. All of you that are going to be joining me in January, we're going to have a fantastic 2021 together. I'm going to leave this up on the screen just for a few minutes in case you're frantically trying to copy it down or something. I'll leave the page up for the next couple of minutes as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great new year. Have a brilliant 2021, and let's go and buy some businesses together. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye for now.